Chapter 820. The original novel of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer was first published on Waves Books. It was published in the form of a web novel. It didn't make much impact at the beginning, with only a few readers clicking on it. However, the brilliance of this novel, which was the pioneer of the new wuxia novel, couldn't be covered. It was loved by a group of readers, spread in the online world, and finally printed in large quantities. So far, The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer had been reprinted 5 times, with a total print run of more than 10 million. It was also translated into many languages and published abroad. It had countless fans. After The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, The Legend of the Condor Heroes, created by the same author, took over the banner of the new wuxia novel. It was on the best-selling list of Xinhua Book Company as soon as it was published, showing its great strength. In addition, Qinfei Media announced that it had bought the adaptation copyright of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer. As long as the people in the industry were not stupid, they could see that a popular IP was taking shape and had great market potential. The most important thing was that many people had a superstitious reverence for Lu Chen, because none of the projects he was involved in had failed, and all of them made a lot of money. He also made a lot of money for his collaborators. Since Lu Chen had bet on the wuxia IP, who wouldn't want a share of it? Unfortunately, it was not practical to directly cooperate with Qinfei Media. It was not a matter of money, but that Qinfei Media was very picky about their partners. It was not easy to get this fat meat. Since cooperation was not possible, they would do it themselves. After Qinfei Media announced that they would shoot The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, many big companies in the industry started to invest in the same type of film and television works. Even the copyrights of many novels that followed the trend of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer were selling like hotcakes in the market. The competition was so fierce, and naturally there were some people who took the unconventional approach. Some time ago, the new 7 Heroes and 5 Gallants shot by the Land Pictures was very popular. The lead actor, Gu Lei, not only was jumping up and down in the blog, but also challenged Lu Chen, trying his best to gain popularity. Although Gu Lei was despised and reprimanded by Lu Chen's fans because of this, the effect of his shamelessness was really good. Not only did his fame soar, but the new 7 Gallant Heroes and 5 Gallant Heroes were also known to many people. If it wasn't for Lu Chen's interaction with Qinfei, to suppress it, he would have probably made a lot of money. With successful precedents like Gu Lei and the new 7 Heroes and 5 Righteous Heroes, there were naturally many people who followed suit. Among them, there was no lack of clever people who chose to draw their swords at the critical moment. The sword was pointed at the upcoming summer holidays. The one who drew the sword was Wanhao Pictures, which had recently become famous in the film and television industry. Wanhao Pictures was considered a new recruit in the film and television industry. It had only been established for a few years, but it had a very powerful background. It was a wholly owned subsidiary of the Wanhao Group. The core of the Wanhao Group, Wanhao Real Estate, was one of the top 10 real estate developers in the country. It could be said to be rich and powerful. It had just entered the film and television industry, but it had already shown its ambition. It spent a lot of money to sign many heavyweight celebrities to join it, causing the industry to be in a state of panic. At the beginning of this year, Wanhao Pictures spent a huge sum of money to buy the film and television rights of the popular new wuxia novel, Young Pugilistic World. It also announced that it would start shooting this movie this year, with a total investment of 150 million. At that time, this caused a huge sensation in the industry. Many people were amazed by Wanhao Pictures' generosity. Many people were happy to watch a good show. They wanted to know what kind of storm this big crocodile would stir up when it entered the Red Sea. However, what was unexpected was that after Wanhao Pictures announced the shooting of Young Pugilistic World, there was no other major news. It became quiet all of a sudden, which made people feel a little confused. Later on, there was some sporadic news that showed that Wanhao Pictures was not joking. They were really going to shoot the movie. However, even their opening ceremony was very low-key, so there were not many media reports. It was the information age now, the era of information explosion. Wanhao Pictures played low-key, so naturally, no one had anything to do to create hype. Even the influence of Young Pugilistic World, which was considered a popular IP, was weakened by a lot. There were even some people in the industry who laughed at Wanhao Pictures behind their backs. They thought that Wanhao Pictures lacked experience and became a spendthrift. Whether Young Pugilistic World could be filmed was a problem, and a lot of money might go down the drain in the end. Similar cases were not rare. Even though the film market was extremely popular now, and many film and television companies were making a lot of money, causing countless investors to bow down to them, that was because they did not see the piles of corpses inside. However, the result was a heavy slap to these people's faces. On the 5th of June, Wanhao Pictures suddenly released the first trailer of Young Pugilistic World on their official Weibo. At the same time, the official Weibo of the movie Young Pugilistic World was also officially launched on Wave's blog. Many famous actors who participated in the filming of the movie reposted the official Weibo at the same time, opening the curtain of publicity at lightning speed. This shocked a lot of people in the industry. Wanhao Pictures had really done a good job in keeping the secret. There wasn't even a bit of news leaked out beforehand. The sudden exposure of such a big piece of news simply caught people off guard. All of a sudden, the movie Young Pugilistic World became a hot topic on blogs and the internet. The official Weibo trailer was reposted in large numbers. Just this trailer alone was undoubtedly a lot of highlights. Whether it was the character designs, the fighting scenes, the special effects, or the background music, they were all quite outstanding. The 2 minutes and 20 seconds video that was meticulously edited had reached the standard that a blockbuster should have. A few famous actors appeared in the trailer, and it instantly attracted a lot of attention from fans. And Wanhao Pictures' sudden move undoubtedly put a lot of pressure on their peers, especially those who were filming and producing the same type of movie. The new school of martial arts movies had been hyped up for a long time. Wanhao Pictures was the first to release the trailer, and from the trailer, it was already very completed. On the 6th of June, Wanhao Pictures' official Weibo once again announced that Young Pugilistic World would officially be released on all the major cinemas in the country on the 15th of July. There would also be a large-scale publicity campaign before the screening, and the surrounding products would also be released on the same day as the screening. Then, a marketing account with over 1 million fans on the blog revealed that the main actor of Young Pugilistic World, Huafei, originally had the intention to act in The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, but was rejected by Chinfei Media. In the end, The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer skipped the summer slot, and Young Pugilistic World was one step ahead. Once this was exposed, it immediately caused a heated discussion on the internet. Because of this, Huafei's fans had a fierce conflict with Lu Chen's fans. Chapter 821. Male idols were considered a unique scene in the domestic entertainment industry. In the beginning, this nickname was given to Japanese and Korean celebrities by fans. It referred to those young, handsome, and muscular male idols. It was a typical internet term. In recent years, as young male idols began to gain popularity, there were many more celebrities of the same type in the domestic entertainment industry. Their characteristics were often very similar. First of all, they were young enough. Those who were over 30 were considered old cured meat. They had fair skin and a fashionable style. Their promotions were extremely strong. Furthermore, they usually did not have any singing skills or acting skills, but they could still become a mess of popularity. When Lu Chen first made his debut, he was once classified as a little fresh meat by some media, but he soon relied on his extraordinary talent and healthy and robust image to become a perfect big star with both idol and strength. As for Huafei, he actually debuted later than Lu Chen, but he also became popular very quickly. Huafei first signed with a well-known management company, Taishe. With the support of Taishe, he quickly debuted and starred in a TV series with good ratings. He quickly became popular with his handsome image. As soon as he became popular, Huafei fell out with Taishe. He was frozen for half a year and fought a sensational lawsuit. Then, he joined another management company, CKG. After signing with CKG, Huafei's career went smoothly. He starred in many TV series and even released his own album. He became one of the best male idols and had a large number of fans. Hua Feil's salary was very high. CKG asked for more than $1 million per episode for a TV series and at least $50 million for a movie. There was also a share of the box office. Regardless of whether such a high salary was fake or not, CKG had the confidence to offer such a price. Hua Feil had more than 20 million fans on Waves and had endorsed many international brands. Lu Chen didn't know Hua Feil. He hadn't even seen him before. They didn't have much contact before. However, when Chinfei Media announced that they would be filming The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, CKG's manager came looking for cooperation and recommended Hua Feil. At that time, Chinfei Media was a little interested. After all, Hua Feil's popularity and market value were obvious. His participation would undoubtedly expand the target audience of the movie and increase the box office. However, CKG's offer shocked Lu Shi. It was an unacceptable price, so she could only reject it. As the saying goes, even if the deal doesn't work out, the cooperation doesn't work out either. Chinfei Media and CKG wouldn't fall out with each other because of this. After that, there was no more news. To everyone's surprise, Hua Feil had joined Wanhao Pictures to star in Young Jianghu, and Young Jianghu had launched a promotional campaign against martial arts movies before The Smiling, Proud Wanjiangu. Regardless of whether the marketing account on the blog was instructed by anyone or not, the explosive news inevitably caused the two movies and even the two leading actors to oppose each other. Coupled with a lot of media hype, it quickly became a hot topic on the blog. The first to stir up trouble were Hua Feil's fans. Hua Feil's fans called themselves music fans. Most of them were teenage girls, and most of them were born in the 2000s. Most of them were born in the 90s, and most of them were born in the 90s. Their values in life weren't mature, and they often chased after their idols. As soon as the marketing account revealed the news, some music fans immediately went to Chinfei Media's blog to mock them. They said that Chinfei Media was blind and rejected Hua Feil. Now they were slapped in the face. Of course, Chinfei Media's official blog didn't care about these fans, so they didn't bother to respond. Seeing that Chinfei Media's official blog didn't have any reaction, they were probably very dissatisfied. They immediately summoned a group of allies to support them and flooded the comments section. As a result, Chinfei Media's official blog hasn't spoken yet. Lu Chen's fans became angry after learning about the situation. The Lu family army's support group roared over and surrounded these music fans inhumanely. In the past 2 years, Lu Jiejun's fan club, which was led by Lu Chen, was more or less lonely. Other than supporting Lu Chen on a daily basis, they rarely fought with anyone. Now that he had finally encountered something fun, it was as if he could summon hundreds of people and crush the music fans in minutes. Comparing the number of fans and fighting power, the two were really not on the same level. But here came the problem. Most of these music fans were spoiled little girls. They were usually spoiled and loved by their families. They were also praised on the internet. When had they ever been bullied like this? After suffering a loss, they naturally had to find help. They cried and complained everywhere in their QQ group, expanding the online battlefield from the blog to Lu Chen's official Tieba. This time, it was like poking a hornet's nest. Lu Chen had hundreds of millions of fans on Waves and tens of millions of fans on Tieba. Now that someone came looking for trouble, he immediately pulled back. Not only did they have to pull back, but they also had to counterattack. They didn't need to mobilize much. A few large groups of people worked together to destroy Hua Feil's Tieba. The fighting power of Lu Chen's fans was so strong that Hua Feil's official Tieba had to limit the level of the posters and delete a large number of posts. Although the storm was suppressed, it was equivalent to admitting defeat. Hua Feil's fans didn't want to give up, so they went around on the internet, saying that Lu Chen's fans were bullying them by relying on their numbers, and that they were trying to pester Lu Chen. But so far, neither Chinfei Media nor CKG directly participated in it. After all, it was common for fans to fight with each other. Unless it got out of hand, it would be too low for the officials to roll up their sleeves and get involved. As for Huofei himself, he didn't say anything. He just kept posting the crew and highlights of Young Pugilistic World on his blog to cooperate with Wanhao Pictures promotion. Compared to Gu Lei, who had been fighting with Lu Chen before, his attitude was undoubtedly much colder and more arrogant. But the media, who were afraid of chaos, stirred up the fight between the fans of both sides, and also put Huofei and Lu Chen, Young Pugilistic World, and the smiling, proud martial artist, on the opposite side. If Young Pugilistic World was a great success and won a considerable box office, did it mean that the smiling, proud martial artist had won the crown? Then did Huofei, who had been rejected by Qinfei Media, complete a beautiful counterattack. The emergence of this kind of public opinion made Lucy, who has always been very concerned about online publicity, pay attention to it, so she made this phone call to Lu Chen. If you didn't occupy the position of the public opinion, you would be waiting to be occupied by your opponent. Lu Shi knew this very well. Chapter 822. Compared to Lu Shi's anxiety, Lu Chen was much calmer. Qinfei Media had developed to this day, and the success or failure of a movie was not enough to shake its foundation. He had the status and reputation he had now, and not many opponents could shake him. The first movie of the smiling, proud wanderer was of course very important. Its box office would directly affect the profits of the next two movies. It was also the first battle of Lu Chen's great wuxia IP plan, and he could only succeed. But Lu Chen didn't think that Young Pugilistic World would be a big threat to the smiling, proud wanderer. Even if the former had a big box office, it would only steal the limelight of the wuxia movies. Most importantly, no matter how good the trailer was, no matter how popular the online promotion was, the box office was ultimately contributed by the audience, and it was the audience's reputation that determined the box office. On this point, Lu Chen had absolute confidence in the smiling, proud wanderer. In order to prepare for this new wuxia movie, he painstakingly built the Lu family troupe, spent 2 years preparing, invested a huge amount of money to build a special effects team, and even made a talent show to find talents. Young Pugilistic World, or Wanhao Pictures, which invested in this movie, were rich and powerful, but how could they be more prepared than Qinfei Media? What's more, the trend of new wuxia was brought by Lu Chen. As for the shooting of wuxia movies, he not only had rich memories in the dream world to use, but also had his own unique understanding and ideas. Lu Chen didn't doubt the ability of Wanhao Pictures, and he also believed that this opponent could make a decent blockbuster. But wuxia movies, Lu Chen smiled and said, "Sister, the smiling, proud wanderer will be finished in 2 months. Including the post-production, we can't release it until the National Day at the earliest. We don't have a direct conflict with them, so let's not get involved. Let Brother Fei appease the fans. We should have a high enough position. There's no need to make a fuss. If they do well in the box office, it's actually good for us. We don't need to fight for this reputation." Regardless of whether it was the entertainment industry or the film industry, they were all circles of fame and fortune, right and wrong. Open and secret fights were everywhere. Now that Wanhao Pictures had made such a big fuss, it was nothing more than fighting for fame and fortune, and trampling on Qinfei Media along the way. Lu Chen had no intention of stirring up a dispute at this time. The filming of the smiling, proud wanderer was at a critical stage. It was not worth it to be distracted by this kind of thing. Perhaps the other party was eager for him to take the field himself. Under Lu Chen's persuasion, Lu Shi quickly calmed down. She realized that Lu Chen's words were very reasonable. "All right then, I'll discuss it with Li Feiyu and try to deal with it as coldly as possible." Li Feiyu was the only friend Lu Chen met during his time in Beijing. It could be said that the change in Lu Chen's fate had a certain relationship with him. Since Lu Chen became famous and started his career, he had not forgotten this friend. In the beginning, Li Feiyu served as Lu Chen's assistant and helped with the live broadcast. Later, he was responsible for the public relations and marketing of the studio. Now he was the director of the online publicity department of Qinfei Media. He was responsible for managing matters related to fans, such as Lu Jiejun's support fan group, official Tieba, forum, QQ group and so on. Lu Qin said, "Well, find another media to arrange an interview for me. We'll also make some noise." Lu Shi agreed. He ended the call with Lu Shi. Chen Fei, and Mu Xiaochu walked over hand in hand. Chen Fei, asked, "What happened? Why did you call for so long?" Lu Qin smiled and said, "Sister called. It's nothing big. Let's go back and talk. It's too windy here." It really wasn't a big deal. Lu Qin set the tone to deal with the situation. On the other side, under the arrangement of Lu Shi, Qinfei Media quickly appeased most of the fans through the support group and did not continue to make the matter bigger. In the words of Li Feiyu in the official group, it was that Lu Jiejun should have a high profile and not fight with others. Lu Chen's fans were also mainly young people, but compared to those teenage girls, they were undoubtedly more rational and mature, so everyone was quite cooperative. Of course, a small number of fans did not listen, but after all, they could not cause much trouble. As for Wanhao Pictures and Huafei, they did not make a big deal out of it. After all, there were too many fans of Lu Chen. If they really offended all of them, then they would boycott the release of Young Martial World. It would not be worth it. However, some of Huafei's fans saw that Lu Jiejun had given up, so they felt proud and thought that they had won. The only ones who were disappointed were the media who wanted to see the world in chaos, and a small number of people in the industry who liked to watch the fun. On June 10, Lu Chen accepted an interview with Film Express on the temporary set of Huashan. Film Express was one of the few professional film newspapers in China. It had been published for nearly 30 years and had a great influence among film fans. It had launched its own website a few years ago, and the official V of Waves blog had more than 5 million fans. Since The Smiling, The Proud Martial World started shooting, the crew refused to be interviewed by the media. The shooting had always been in a state of secrecy, and there had been no important news for a few months. This time, Film Express was contacted by Qinfei Media, and immediately sent their best people to Huashan, trying to dig out the relevant first-hand information about The Smiling, The Proud Martial World. At present, the martial arts movies were very popular. At least 3 movies of the same genre were released during the summer. People in and out of the industry were very concerned about it, especially The Smiling, The Proud Martial World. On June 12, Film Express published the full interview with Lu Chen on its latest issue and website, which immediately attracted the attention of many people in the industry and other media. However, to their disappointment, Film Express did not have any eye-catching news. Lu Chen and the crew of The Smiling, The Proud Martial World were very low-key. They only said that the shooting was very smooth, and that they could basically guarantee that the movie would be released during the National Day. As for Young Man in Pugilistic World and other competitors, Lu Chen did not comment on them because he did not know them well, and he did not care that the honor of the first new martial arts movie was taken away. Compared with the bold words released by Lu Chen at the opening ceremony, people in the industry soon said that the shooting of The Smiling, The Proud Martial World might have encountered a lot of problems. Under the strong competition of Young Man in Pugilistic World, he was not very confident, and he might fail in this movie. Regarding this saying, neither Lu Chen nor Qinfei Media paid attention to it. No matter what the outside world said, they always kept silent. Chapter 823. Qinfei Media had only been established for less than 2 years. Even with the addition of its predecessor, Lu Chen Studio, it had not been more than 4 years in the entertainment industry. It was not an exaggeration to say that it was a new recruit in the industry. However, it was precisely this new recruit who, under the leadership of Lu Chen, had created a series of dazzling achievements in the entertainment industry, and had attacked in many directions, showing the powerful momentum of a future big media. Qinfei Media was a company owned by Lu Chen and Qinfei. It was a typical husband and wife business. Because it was not a listed company, there was no obligation to disclose its performance to the public. How much money it had made, apart from the relevant people inside the company, perhaps only the national tax authorities would know. There were also many speculations about the profitability of Qinfei Media. One of the more authoritative inferences was that in just last year, Chen-Fei Media's profit was at least between 400 million and 500 million. This level of profitability had crushed more than half of the listed companies. Many large companies with tens of thousands of employees did not earn as much as Chen-Fei Media. There were also professional organizations that had evaluated the brand appeal of Lu Chen and believed that Lu Chen's commercial value was about 5 billion, ranking first in the Chinese entertainment industry. Although Chen-Fei Media and Lu Chen himself did not respond to these speculations and assessments, in the eyes of many people in the industry, there was no doubt that Lu Chen's ability to make money was strong. He had made so much money and was worth so much money. It was impossible for no one to be jealous of him. However, Lu Chen had never had any black marks on him. Not long after his debut, he fell in love with Chen-Fei. The relationship between the two was very stable and they became the model couple in the entertainment industry that everyone envied. Lu Chen's works, whether it was music or film, were all original. He did not plagiarize or follow the trend. He always led the trend. His talent was outstanding and unparalleled. Even if the haters wanted to criticize him, they could not find anything. Most importantly, although he made a lot of money, he never flaunted it. He also invested a huge amount of money to set up Chen-Fei Charity Foundation and helped many sick children. How could they criticize him? In addition, within the circle, Lu Chen's personality was also well known for being modest and magnanimous. He never acted like a big shot, never put on airs, and never spoke ill of people on his blog, even if the other party was deliberately creating trouble to gain popularity. This kind of Lu Chen really made his opponents feel despair. This time, the strong competition between Wanhao Pictures and Chen-Fei Media in the movie industry finally allowed people to catch something. Hence, under the situation where Chen-Fei Media continued to remain silent and did not launch a counterattack against Young Pugilistic World, many people became excited and active. Some media outlets were paid, some media outlets were trying to get attention, and some media outlets just didn't like it. Plus, some people were secretly adding fuel to the fire. There was a wave of people belittling the smiling, proud wanderer in the circle. The smiling, proud wanderer has been delayed. It will not be released in the summer. Insider information, the crew of the smiling, proud wanderer is having a conflict with the director. According to the current information, the smiling, the proud swordsman might miss the National Day slot. The smiling, proud wanderer is facing difficulties in production due to the high difficulty of production. Several big web portals had a cooperative relationship with Chen-Fei Media. There was no negative news about Chen-Fei Media and the crew of the smiling, proud wanderer, but many other small and medium media, especially self-media, were much more unscrupulous. As the promotion of Young Pugilistic World became more and more aggressive, there was more and more negative news about the smiling, proud wanderer, which was forwarded to blogs, forums, and QQ groups. To those who didn't know the truth, it was easy to have the illusion that the upcoming Young Pugilistic World was the real masterpiece of the new martial arts movie. Everyone knew that Wanhao Pictures was definitely behind the scenes. They were never stingy with their funds on promotion. For the box office of this blockbuster movie, it was normal for them to carry out a series of operations. But others could not get anything to use against Wanhao Pictures, because Wanhao Pictures had never purposely targeted anyone with their publicity for Young World's adventures in the pugilistic world. They boasted about themselves and did not belittle their opponents. They used open and above-board tactics. With two lines working together, one in the open and the other in the dark, it was easy to imagine the momentum created. Young Pugilistic World became extremely popular and became the new representative of domestic movies. No matter how much publicity Wanhao Pictures gave, Chen-Fei Media just stood by and watched. No matter how hard it was, they didn't do anything. They basically didn't do any publicity for the smiling, the proud wanderer. They only released a few stills occasionally. All of a sudden, Young Pugilistic World had the feeling of being the only one to lose in the promotion of the summer movie. Even the two American blockbusters that were also going to be released during the summer were at a disadvantage. However, Chen-Fei Media had their own reasons for not fighting back. Because the smiling, Proud Wanderer, was scheduled to be released during the National Day slot. There was no schedule conflict with Young Pugilistic World, and there was no direct competition, so they could completely put on a high profile. But Young Pugilistic World was not the only domestic martial arts movie that was released during the summer. Just as Young Pugilistic World became popular on the internet, Goulet, who had almost disappeared a while ago, suddenly jumped out and ridiculed Hwafale on his personal blog. This time, Goulet must have changed a publicity planner. His blog post was quite interesting. Although everyone knew that he was ridiculing Hwafale, Hwafale's name wasn't in the blog post, but it was full of ridicule. Goulet did have a reason to mock Hwafale, because he was a hardcore action star. It was very suitable for him to act in a martial arts film. However, if a sissy were to act as a heroic hero, wouldn't it be hilarious? As soon as Goulet started to ridicule Hwafale, it immediately attracted a lot of gunfire. The fans of Hwafale who were provoked by his blog post immediately exploded and swarmed over to fight back. This was exactly what Goulet wanted. He continuously posted 3 tough blog posts to strengthen his firepower. At the same time, he didn't forget to promote the new 3 Heroes and 5 Righteous, which was released 1 week later than Young Pugilistic World. Some people said that in the entertainment industry, one had to be thick-skinned and black-hearted enough. Goulet was undoubtedly one of the best. Everyone knew that he was trying to get attention, but it was really admirable for him to be so fearless and try to get attention. In the end, Hwafale couldn't stay calm anymore. He personally went on stage and ridiculed Goulet. It wasn't over yet. While the two sides were fighting fiercely, another martial arts movie, Pugilistic World Wanderer, which was also released during the summer, joined in. Someone commented, "Jianghu is in chaos." Chapter 8:24. The world was bustling for profits, and the world was bustling for profits. To put it bluntly, the chaos in the domestic film market was actually a battle for profits. It was a fierce competition for a share of a big cake with tens of billions of yuan in the box office. Everyone wanted to grab the biggest and sweetest piece. In this competition, the Proud Wanderer was reduced to an inconspicuous supporting role. Everyone's attention was attracted by Young Jianghu, the 3 Heroes and 5 Righteous, and Jianghu Wanderer. Wanhao Pictures, Land Pictures, and Crown Pictures, which produced Jianghu Wanderer, were all well-known big companies in the industry, and their strength could be said to be equal. The leading actors of the 3 movies, Hwafale, Goulet, and Lin Luo, were all outstanding young actors. Who would win undoubtedly became a hot topic. After Young Pugilistic World, the new 3 Heroes and 5 Righteous, and Pugilistic World Wanderer also released trailers. The special effects were not much inferior to the former. Coupled with the hype, people could not help but smell the smoke of the upcoming summer. Young Jianghu was set to be released on July 5, the 3 Heroes and 5 Righteous on July 12, and Jianghu Wanderer on July 15. A fierce battle had already begun. This situation inevitably made many people worry about Chinfei Media. Because the Proud Wanderer was delayed to the National Day, it completely lost the advantage of 2 months later, and the box office prospects were worrying. The reason was very simple. For the popular new martial arts movies, they must have a great sense of novelty and curiosity, and would certainly be willing to pay to go to the cinema to watch the fun. But after watching a few movies, it was easy to be tired of the same kind of movies. Of course, with the popularity of Lu Chen, Chen Fei, Lu Gangsheng, and Tan Hong, the box office of the Proud Wanderer would certainly not be low, and it would be difficult for Chinfei Media to lose money. But to realize Lu Chen's words at the opening ceremony, it was hard to say. Many people in the industry thought that it was the biggest mistake of the Proud Wanderer to miss the summer. The original advantage was given to the opponent, and the loss caused by the delay was at least hundreds of millions of yuan. This movie was very likely to let Lu Chen get rid of the aura of invincibility. Chinfei Media's recent low profile seemed to prove this. There have been a lot of negative comments in the media recently. In the general manager's office at the headquarters of Chinfei Media in the capital, Lu Shi threw an invitation in front of Lu Chen and said, "It's time for us to take action. We can't just be passively beaten." A few days ago, the first song of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, Sword of Mount Hua, had finished shooting in Ningxian Film and Television City and entered the post-production stage. Lu Chen and several main members of the crew returned to the capital first. However, the production team would not be disbanded. Instead, they would further expand the size of the crew. This was because the filming for the next 2 films would continue and was expected to be completed by the end of the year. During this period of time, Chinfei Media really kept a low profile in terms of publicity. Even the news of the completion of Sword of Mount Hua was only announced on their official Weibo. They didn't even invite media reporters to interview them. The media never stopped criticizing The Smiling, Proud Wanderer. The reasons were complicated. Some of them were caused by their opponents, some of them were just trying to gain popularity. Of course, it was also because Chinfei Media didn't spend any money. Most of the media's moral integrity was actually to sell to whoever offered the highest price. It would be strange if Chinfei Media didn't spend money, but their opponents spent money. Although Chinfei Media also paid a lot of attention to media publicity and public relations, and the budget was very high, it was inevitable that there would be some negative effects due to the recent shrinking of their publicity strategy. In this regard, Lu Chen smiled and said, "Don't worry. The summer period has just begun. It won't be too late for us to take action after their films are released. It's more powerful to take back our fists and punch them out." The concept of the summer period originated from the United States. It referred to the film schedule from June 1st to August 31st every year. The main audience was the student audience aged 4 to 24. Major film companies usually paid special attention to the film schedule in June and July to compete for this huge market share. Originally, in China, the summer period had always been regarded as the off-season of the box office and was not taken seriously. However, with the increasing prosperity of the domestic film market, the value of the summer period was highlighted and became a place that must be fought for. However, the domestic summer period started at the end of June. July was the prime time and August was the end of the period. Young Man in Pugilistic World, The New 3 Heroes and 5 Righteous, and The Wanderer of Pugilistic World were all released in the prime time in July. This situation was relatively rare in the past. The competition was bound to be very fierce. Seeing Lu Chen's calmness, Lu Shi couldn't help but roll her eyes at him. The emperor is not anxious, but the eunuch is anxious, because Lu Chen had set the tone for The Smiling, Proud Wanderer early on. Chinfei Media also had a hard time enduring the waves of publicity from their opponents. There were some people who didn't understand and complained internally, feeling that they were being looked down upon by others. Lu Chen laughed and didn't explain much. He picked up the invitation on the table curiously. This invitation was from Wanhao Pictures. The premiere of Young Man in Pugilistic World would be held in Wanhao World Studios 5 days later, which was July 2nd. They invited Lu Chen to attend. Lu Chen already knew about the premiere of Young Man in Pugilistic World because Wanhao Pictures had been announcing it for a long time and made it very grand. This premiere would also be the opening ceremony of Wanhao World Studios. To a certain extent, it showed Wanhao Pictures' ambition to vigorously expand the film industry and move towards the road of pan-entertainment. Therefore, for this premiere, Wanhao Pictures also sent out invitations and invited famous people from all walks of life. "Faye and I will also get one," Lu Shi asked. "I'm definitely going. Are you two going?" Although there was a direct competition between Wanhao Pictures and Chinfei Media, in the business world, as long as they didn't fall out with each other, they still had to give some face. Otherwise, they wouldn't give a good impression. As the general manager of Chinfei Media, Lu Shi received the invitation and attended in person was a courtesy and also a kind of business respect. However, it didn't matter whether Lu Chen and Chinfei went or not. According to Lu Shi, it was better for them not to go. Anyway, it was easy to find a reason and they weren't afraid of what others would say. If they really went, it would be giving the other party a chance to hype up, and it would be considered as funding the enemy. Go, why not? Lu Chen raised his eyebrows, patted the invitation in his hand, and said with a faint smile, "It's good to go and watch the show." Chapter 825. July 2nd, Wanhao New World. Wanhao Xintiandi was a new commercial city that Wanhao Group had just completed in Beijing's 4th Ring Road. It was also the third large-scale shopping mall of this powerful real estate developer in Beijing. In recent years, the Hopska urban complex, which integrated commerce, residence, entertainment, and consumption, could be said to be blossoming everywhere in the country. Many real estate companies have been fighting for territory in major cities to build top-notch shopping centers. Marriott World Cinema was one of the most important parts of Marriott New World. This new cinema had 18 screening halls, among which the IMAX giant screen hall could accommodate 1,200 audiences at the same time. Its scale was one of the largest in the country, and its various facilities were also the most advanced. The premiere of Young Pugilistic World was held at Wanhao World Cinema. Night had just fallen, but the plaza in front of Marriott New World was already bustling with noise and excitement. Dozens of balloons with long banners hung in the air, and under the rainbow arches, there was a red carpet that was tens of meters long leading to the entrance of Silver City. The huge electronic display screen and the celebrity signature wall had already been set up. Many staff members were busy completing the final preparations. The lights set up at the scene were lit up, and a few beams of light shot into the sky. Many reporters had arrived at the scene in advance and even set up cameras. Such a scene attracted many ordinary citizens who came to watch the fun, but they were all blocked by security personnel in the safe area. It was just past 6:00, and the trailer for Young World was displayed on the giant LED screen. Passionate music filled the square, and people from all walks of life appeared one after another. In order for Young Pugilistic World, a martial arts blockbuster with an investment of 150 million yuan, to become a hit in the summer, Wanhao Pictures spared no effort in publicity. Dozens of celebrities and famous people in the industry were invited to attend the premiere. This did not include the actors and directors of the film crew. When Lu Chen, Chen Feier, and Lu Shi passed the security check in a Mercedes-Benz and arrived at the scene, there were at least tens of thousands of people gathered there. Both sides of the long red carpet were lined with reporters, and the flashes of cameras were flashing one after another. "It's so lively." Chen Feier saw the scene outside through the car window. She was quite surprised. The premiere is almost like a movie award ceremony. It was rare to see a premiere of such a scale in the country. It was all thanks to Wanhao Pictures' wealth. Lu Shi smiled and said, "I heard that they are going to spend 100 million yuan on publicity, and the target box office earnings is at least 1 billion yuan. The investment budget for Young Pugilistic World was 150 million, and spending 100 million on publicity was not an exaggeration. Just the premiere alone would cost at least 10 to 20 million, and the total cost would be 250 to 300 million. According to the share of the domestic box office, if the production cost was 300 million, then a box office of 1 billion would guarantee a minimum profit." However, Wanhao Pictures was definitely more ambitious. The black Mercedes-Benz S500 stopped steadily at the beginning of the red carpet. The reporters' cameras immediately turned around, ready to take first-hand photos. Many of the stars who had appeared in front of them had already attracted a lot of attention. Every Mercedes-Benz that came was like a small treasure chest. After opening it, there might be unexpected surprises. Although these reporters had received red packets, their professionalism was still very high. The more they stirred up, the more attention they would get from their own media. Which star or director are those who just came over? Apart from the reporters, there were also countless onlookers at the scene. The live broadcast was played on the LED screen in real time, attracting most people's curious gazes. Under everyone's gaze, the uniformed usher opened the car door. A tall and handsome young man got out of the car with a faint smile on his face. Lu Chen. The reporters recognized him in an instant. They subconsciously pressed the shutter, and the flashes intertwined. Taking photos was their instinct. In fact, these reporters were very surprised. They had never thought that Lu Chen would actually attend the premiere of Young Pugilistic World. It was normal for Wanhao Pictures to send an invitation to Lu Chen, but it was surprising that Lu Chen was invited. One should know that the promotion of Young Pugilistic World was very vigorous. Although it did not directly target the smiling, the proud martial artist, everyone in the industry could see the intention of Wanhao Pictures. Although Young Pugilistic World and The Smiling, the Proud Martial Artist were not released at the same time, and there was no direct competition between them. However, Wanhao Pictures obviously wanted to snatch the flag of the new school of martial arts movies and plant it firmly in front of their own door. To get such glory, they had to step on The Smiling, the Proud Martial Artist. As the one being challenged, it was impossible for Lu Chen not to know that he came to the premiere of Young Pugilistic World. Did he have an ulterior motive, or was he really being generous? The reporters' brains were working fast, and the SLR cameras in their hands were still clicking non-stop. Lu Chen got out of the car, but he did not immediately step on the red carpet. He turned around and brought out his companion in a gentlemanly manner. Chen Fei, The reporters were a little crazy, and the speed of pressing the shutter doubled. The most popular couple in the entertainment industry, the male and female leads of The Smiling, the Proud Martial Artist, came together. If they were put on the website, they could almost be the entertainment headlines. Lu Chen. Chen Fei, There were many fans of the two in the crowd. Seeing that their idols actually came, they immediately shouted loudly, and even tried to push forward, which made the security guards who were waiting for them feel like they were facing a formidable enemy. The security guards were also having a hard time. There were many celebrities who had walked the red carpet before them, but they did not see them being very excited. But now they finally saw what was called the power of the crowd. Lu Chen and Chen Fei held hands, and waved to the excited fans. Their images appeared on the big screen, and were also captured by countless cameras and mobile phones. The same scene was already familiar to people, and it was believed that it would appear frequently in the future. The organizers of the premiere would definitely feel embarrassed, because all the glory was taken away by the two who had just appeared. It gave people the feeling that it was not the premiere of Young Pugilistic World, but the premiere of The Smiling, the Proud Martial Artist. If they had known this, they would not have sent invitations to Lu Chen and Chen Fei. It was like shooting themselves in the foot. The two attracted so much attention that Lu Shi, who got out of the car after them, did not pay much attention to them. But not only did Lu Shi not care about it at all, but she was secretly laughing. They were not here to support, it was almost like they were here to ruin the show. It was so embarrassing. Her sister was happily thinking, the show is about to begin. Chapter 826. Amidst the cheers and the cameras of over 100 reporters, Lu Chen, Chen Fei, and Lu Shi walked down the long red carpet and arrived in front of the signature wall. Welcome, welcome. A middle-aged man in a navy blue suit walked up and extended his hand to Lu Chen with a warm smile. Mr. Lu Chen, Miss Chen Fei, General Manager Lu, it's our honor to have the three of you here. This is General Manager Lu Xingda of Wanhao Pictures. Lu Shi, who was beside Lu Chen, was afraid that he didn't know the identity of the other party, so she reminded him in a low voice. Lu Chen's expression changed. He immediately extended his hand and shook his hand. He smiled and said, "Nice to meet you, General Manager Lu. We should be the ones thanking you for your kind invitation and giving us the opportunity to visit and learn." Lu Chen had long heard of this General Manager Lu of Wanhao Pictures. It was said that he was strong-willed and resourceful. Under his control, Wanhao Pictures, which had just been established for a few years, had developed rapidly. Coupled with the support of Wanhao Group, the scale and strength of the company could be compared to a few established companies in the industry, becoming a new tycoon. It was his first time seeing him in person. This General Manager Lu of Wanhao Pictures had thick eyebrows and big eyes. He was handsome, had a loud voice, and had a heroic temperament. If he was in a movie, he would definitely be the main character. Lu Xingda had acted in movies before, but he didn't make it big. Later on, he became a manager and opened his own company. Then, he walked step by step to where he was today. He could be considered a legendary figure in the industry. Ha, let's learn together. Lu Xingda laughed. He shook Lu Chen's hand and said, "We want to learn from you." The flashes in the surroundings were incessant. Many cameras pointed at Lu Chen and Lu Xingda at the same time, capturing the scene of the two shaking hands and laughing. Those who didn't know would definitely think that the two of them had a good friendship. In fact, not only were they meeting for the first time, they were also competitors. Lu Xingda shook hands with Chen Feier and Lu Shi respectively, politely and enthusiastically expressing his welcome. Then, he personally led the three of them to sign on the signature wall. As soon as Lu Chen signed his name and stepped off the stage, a large group of reporters immediately surrounded him, scrambling to hold up microphones to him. The colorful logos of different media outlets almost blocked his face. "Lu Chen! Mr. Lu Chen! Teacher Lu," they shouted and raised different questions at the same time, and desperately came forward to fight for a good seat. If it weren't for the timely obstruction of the security personnel on the scene, it was estimated that Lu Chen would have been drowned. This scene made the corner of Lu Xingda's eyes twitch, and he almost couldn't maintain the smile on his face. Previously, when the cast of Young Pugilistic World made their appearance, they didn't see these reporters who had given them big red packets to be so excited. It was as if Lu Chen was the real protagonist of this premiere. "Mr. Lu Chen, may I ask why you are here for the premiere of Young Pugilistic World?" This question was very straightforward, and it could be said that it was not subtle at all, but it undoubtedly spoke out the question in the hearts of many reporters present. They were really surprised. Lu Chen said in surprise, "I am here for the premiere of Young Pugilistic World, of course, because of Wanhao Pictures and boss Lu's kind invitation." "Is there a problem?" The reporter who asked the question was stunned, and didn't know how to answer. But soon, someone else added, "Young Pugilistic World is a competitor of the smiling, proud Pugilistic World. Is there a special reason why you are here to support Young Pugilistic World?" Reporters, especially entertainment reporters, were very bold. In order to get hot news, they dared to ask any question. They didn't care if the interviewee felt embarrassed, and even deliberately set traps. Therefore, experienced celebrities knew how to answer or avoid these questions. Lu Chen had been in the entertainment industry for 3 or 4 years, and he had been sharpened by countless reporters. He said with a smile, "How could Young Pugilistic World be a competitor of the smiling, proud Pugilistic World?" The smiling, proud Pugilistic World is scheduled for the National Day, and it is still 3 months away. His answer made many reporters laugh. It sounded like Young Pugilistic World was not a competitor of the smiling, proud Pugilistic World, but the latter explanation was reasonable and impeccable. He also slapped the reporter who asked the question in the face. How could it be a competitor of the smiling, proud Pugilistic World? The question was too stupid. The reporters couldn't help but look at each other. Someone else asked, "Then is the smiling, proud Pugilistic World sure to be screened on the National Day?" Lu Chen nodded, "Of course it's not a problem." He glanced at Lu Xingda, whose face was a bit dark, and said with a smile, "Everyone, can you please stop asking about the smiling, proud Pugilistic World? Today we are here to watch Young Pugilistic World. I really hope this masterpiece of Wanhao Pictures can open up the market of martial arts movies and lead the new trend of our domestic movies." The reporter just now couldn't help but look embarrassed. He also took the red packet from Wanhao Pictures, but in the end, he didn't talk about the main topic and started to promote for Lu Chen. On the contrary, Lu Chen pulled the topic back and praised Young Pugilistic World. Who could say that he was wrong? After dealing with these questions, Lu Chen pulled Chen Fei into the cinema. The premiere was held in Hall 1, which could accommodate 1,200 spectators. This hall had not been officially opened to the public yet. All the equipment and facilities were the latest, especially the giant screen, which was claimed to be the best in Asia, which gave people a very shocking feeling. There were already a lot of people sitting in the hall, and the scene was very well decorated. The seats of Lu Chen and the other two were arranged in the middle of the third row, which was the real VIP treatment. After sitting down, Lu Shi asked softly, "You praised them so much just now, aren't you afraid of hurting your own feet?" Previously, Lu Chen had praised Wanhao Pictures and Young Pugilistic World. What he said would definitely be published on the internet media as soon as possible, which was equivalent to helping Wanhao Pictures promote for free. Lu Chen smiled but didn't say anything. If Young Pugilistic World was really good and outstanding, then it wouldn't matter whether he praised it or not. But if the result was the opposite, then the higher he praised it now, the harder he would fall in the future. Lu Chen didn't like to scheme against others, and he was used to crushing his opponents fair and square. But this didn't mean that he wouldn't give them a taste of their own medicine. At 7:30 at night, the lights in the hall dimmed, and the giant screen showed the beginning of the movie. The premiere of Young Pugilistic World had officially begun. Chapter 827. Young Pugilistic World had a big highlight in terms of publicity, and that was that during the filming process, they used the latest digital giant screen technology, abandoning the shortcoming of using special film to film the previous giant screen movies. Coupled with the investment of integrated IMAX equipment throughout the entire process, the viewing effect reached the world's first-class standards. Of course, this martial arts blockbuster invested by Wanhao Pictures was divided into two versions to meet the viewing needs of different audiences, and the premiere was naturally the giant screen version. The length of the film reached 110 minutes, nearly 2 hours. During the process of the film playing, there was applause from the audience from time to time, and there were exclamations. More than 1,000 audiences and media reporters seemed to have been conquered by this giant film. When the film was over, there was a warm applause from the audience, the lights slowly lit up, countless colored foil fell from the sky, and all the crew members who participated in the premiere went on the stage, making the atmosphere in the cinema reach its climax. Lu Chen didn't continue to sit and watch the excitement, but together with Chen Fei, and Lu Shi, they politely said goodbye to Lu Xingda, the head of Wanhao Pictures, expressing their regret that they couldn't attend the celebration party later. Lu Xingda was in a very good mood, and he couldn't hide the pride on his face. He said a few polite words and didn't ask Lu Chen and the other two to stay. His attention had obviously flown away. Leaving the noisy cinema, Lu Chen took a long breath of fresh air outside, and his mind was a lot clearer. The Mercedes-Benz driven by Zhang Xiaofang was already waiting in the driveway. Lu Chen was just about to open the door to let his girlfriend and sister get in first when several people suddenly jumped out from the side. A microphone was handed to Lu Chen as quickly as possible. "Hello, Lu Chen, I'm a reporter from QQ Entertainment. Can I ask you a few questions?" Lu Chen was speechless. He really admired this reporter. Other colleagues were watching the film in the cinema for interviews, but she actually brought people to squat outside, and most likely, she was waiting for him. If it was another reporter, Lu Chen might not be willing to pay attention, but Qinfei Media and QQ have always had a good cooperative relationship, so he turned around and said, "Yes, but only 3 questions." The female reporter of QQ Entertainment was obviously a very smart and capable kind. She had undoubtedly thought about the question long ago. After getting Lu Chen's approval, she asked without hesitation, "After watching Young Jianghu, what's your judgment on this movie?" This question was really hard to answer. Although Lu Chen had praised Wanhao Pictures and Young Man in the Pugilistic World once, that was before watching the movie. No matter how many good words he said, they could only be considered polite words. Now that the premiere was over, Lu Chen was quite sensitive to the judgment of Young Pugilistic World. No matter what he said, it would be easy for others to gossip about him. Lu Chen thought for a moment and replied, "I'm an actor now. I watch movies from a professional point of view. Personally, I think Young Jianghu is good, but the audience has to judge for themselves." The concise and standard diplomatic language made the female reporter's teeth ache. She asked, "Do you really think Young Jianghu is very good?" This question, Lu Chen nodded. "The picture is exquisite, and the giant screen effect is excellent." "Really praise?" The female reporter's eyes lit up and she asked, "So will you recommend your friends to watch this movie? Just tell me, how much money did you receive from Wanhao Pictures?" Lu Chen glanced at her and said with a smile, "I never recommend movies to my friends." This time, it was the female reporter's turn to be speechless, a waste of a question. She didn't give up and asked, "So, I've answered 3 questions. I still have something to do." Lu Chen didn't want to continue arguing with her. He quickly got into the Mercedes-Benz and said, "Goodbye." The experienced Zhang Xiaofang immediately started the engine, stepped on the accelerator and drove away, leaving the others looking at each other. The female reporter stomped her feet in anger, but there was nothing she could do. Lu Chen was also very helpless. He sat in the car and said with lingering fear, "Reporters nowadays are getting more and more difficult to deal with." Just now, Lu Chen was really shocked. The other party's sudden appearance almost made him beat him up. Fortunately, he realized something was wrong in time and controlled himself. Otherwise, tomorrow's headlines would definitely be his. Lu Chen beats up a reporter at the entrance of Wanhao Cinema. Just thinking about this title made him drunk. Chen Fei, pursed his lips and smiled, "You only know now. I wanted to remind you just now." Lu Chen smiled bitterly and shook his head. "Lu," she asked, "do you really think Young Adventures in Pugilistic World is very good?" The reporter had already asked this question once, but Lu Shi wanted to hear the truth. Her sister always felt that Lu Chen was hiding something bad. If she didn't figure it out, she wouldn't be able to sleep well at night. Lu Chen asked with a smile, "What do you think? Or, what do you think of this movie?" Lu Shi thought for a moment and said, "You're right. The picture is exquisite, the giant screen effect is excellent, and the special effects of several fighting scenes are done well, but," her sister frowned and said, "apart from these, it doesn't feel much different from other special effects films, and the whole story is quite awkward. After watching it, I don't have a very special impression." Lu Shi evaluated the movie from the perspective of an audience. Of course, her opinion was certainly very subjective and didn't have general value. Lu Chen looked at Chen Fei, "What about you?" Chen Fei, hee. On the evening of July 2nd, the premiere of Young Adventures in Pugilistic World was held in the newly built Wanhao Studios. That night, many media published relevant news, and several online media also broadcast the scene live. By the next day, the promotion of the movie reached an unprecedented level. In blogs, forums, Tieba, QQ groups and other places, the relevant recommendation articles were almost like cowhide moss. Many media people, film critics, and star artists who attended the premiere all gave Young Adventures in Pugilistic World a very high evaluation, which also made Young Adventures in Pugilistic World famous, attracting the attention of countless people. And before that, the movie ticket pre-sale for Young Adventures in Pugilistic World had already begun. Taking advantage of this wave of popularity, the pre-sale results climbed steadily, and the opening screening was bound to have a very high box office, basically locking in the weekly champion. Young Adventures in Pugilistic World, director, main actors, and the senior management of Wanhao Pictures, including Lu Xingda, all expressed their determination and confidence to break the box office record of domestic movies on different occasions. The box office was predicted to be 2 billion or even higher. All the glory of the so-called new martial arts movie seemed to have been taken away by Young Adventures in Pugilistic World overnight, and even its competitors didn't dare to challenge it lightly. On July 5th, Young Adventures in Pugilistic World was released in major cinemas across the country. The first day's screening rate was 42.75%. Chapter 828. Yao Yao, are you done? Su Kai lowered his head and looked at the phone in his hand. The screen that had just lit up showed that it was 6:27. He couldn't suppress the anxiety in his heart, so he urged her to go to the bathroom again. His girlfriend, Ke Yao, was in the bathroom freshening up. She hadn't come out for more than half an hour. Although he had long been used to hiding in the bathroom to dress up for a long time, he really couldn't stand it tonight, because the movie was going to start in an hour. "Why are you in such a hurry?" Ke Yao poked her head out of the bathroom, holding a lipstick in her hand. She said angrily, "Isn't it still very early? I haven't even finished applying my lipstick yet." Su-kai pointed at the phone with a bitter smile and said, "There's only 1 hour left. It's night time now, and the road is very congested. If we don't leave now, I'm afraid we'll be late." "If we're late, then we'll be late." Kuyao didn't care at all. "What's so good about this kind of fighting and killing movie? I want to watch Left and Right Love, that has just been released. I don't like martial arts movies." Su-kai raised his hands in surrender. "Alright, I'll wait for you." Su-kai was a standard IT man. After graduating from university, he had worked in the deep sea for almost 10 years. It wasn't easy for him to find the girlfriend he liked. Naturally, he would give in to Kuyao if he could. He didn't want to live the life of a single dog anymore. Fortunately, Kuyao wasn't an unreasonable person. She spent another 10 minutes to solve the problem. She followed the restless Su-kai out of their small home and drove to the cinema. When Su-kai was single in the past, he was usually very busy with work, so he had very few entertainment activities. The only long-term hobby that he kept was probably reading online novels, because reading novels on his phone could make full use of his spare time. He also liked the new school of martial arts novels that had just become popular in the past few years. The martial arts novels that were more inclined to the real world were more durable than ordinary online novels. There wasn't too much fantasy and exaggeration, so it was more suitable for an old bookworm like him. On the bookshelf in Su-kai's small study, there were 5 or 6 sets of martial arts novels, such as The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, The Legend of the Condor Heroes, Young Jianghu, and so on. Among these wuxia novels, Su-kai's favorite was The Smiling, Proud Wanderer. This novel was the pioneer of the new school of wuxia, and it occupied the first place in his heart. Even The Legend of the Condor Heroes, which was now more famous than The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, could not be shaken. Su-kai had read the few wuxia novels several times, and The Smiling, Proud Wanderer had read it at least 5 times. He had long been looking forward to this book being adapted into a movie or TV series. He had read these several martial arts novels, and The Proud Jianghu had at least 5 times. He looking forward to the movie. The Jianghu. The movie was very, the movie. To the Jianghu, the movie, and the movie, the S. The JIT, T. The Jianghu tickets were very popular, especially the Jianghu version. Although Shanghai was a first-tier city, there weren't many cinemas with Jianghu. So Su-kai, who was lucky enough to get a ticket, didn't want to be late. It would be a pity if he missed the movie. Fortunately, he was quite lucky. There weren't too many cars on the road. It took him more than 10 minutes to find a parking space at Xinli Cinema. When he finally arrived at the Jianghu Theater, there were only 5 minutes left before the movie started. Thank God, holding a drink and popcorn in one hand and holding Kuyao's hand in the other, Su-kai found their seats and sat down. He couldn't help but let out a long sigh, with a look of lingering fear. Kuyao shook off his hand and rolled her eyes at him. "Look at how anxious you are." "Really?" Su-kai chuckled and handed over the snacks he had just bought in a flattering manner. However, his attention was quickly attracted by the image that appeared on the screen. The movie had started. The eye-catching logo of Wanhao Pictures and the 4 golden words were the first thing that came into view. After half a minute of the introduction, a grand scene was projected on the screen. The towering mountains, the majestic city gates, and the row upon row of buildings were getting closer and closer. Su-kai couldn't help but hold his breath. He had seen the trailer of The Jianghu a long time ago, but the image that he saw on his computer and phone was completely different from what was shown on the screen. It was like the difference between heaven and earth. The combination of real scenes and CG was vividly displayed on the super high-resolution giant screen projection. It immediately captured Su-kai's heart and made him look forward to the subsequent plot. However, after half an hour, this feeling of anticipation weakened a lot. Su-kai's attention returned to his girlfriend. He turned his head and happened to see Kuyao yawn out of boredom. Then, she lazily stuffed 2 pieces of popcorn into her mouth with a disinterested expression. Although he knew that his girlfriend didn't like this type of movie, Su Kai felt very helpless when he saw Kuyao's expression. If he had known earlier, he would have watched Left and Right Love with her first and then watched The Jianghu alone. An hour later, Su Kai moved his butt. He felt that the cinema was a little stuffy and the air conditioning wasn't turned on enough. He looked at Kuyao again. She had actually fallen asleep on his shoulder. Su Kai's helplessness turned into a bitter smile. The 200 yuan that he had spent that night was wasted. After watching for another 20 minutes or so, Su Kai finally couldn't sit still anymore. He gently pushed Kuyao, who was still sleeping. Kuyao woke up with a start. She rubbed her sleepy eyes and asked, "Is it over?" "Not yet." Su Kai smiled bitterly. "It's about time. Let's go first. It'll be very crowded later." After a pause, he added, "I'll accompany you to the Jinsha shopping mall next door." Hearing about shopping mall, Kuyao's sleepiness instantly disappeared. "Okay, then let's go." She was bored to death. If it weren't for accompanying her boyfriend, she wouldn't have bothered to suffer like this. She couldn't wait to leave. The 2 of them left the cinema together and went to the shopping mall instead. When they returned home, it was already past 10 o'clock at night. Kuyao was happily trying on the new clothes she had just bought in the bedroom. Su Kai sat in front of the computer as if there was a fishbone stuck in his throat. He always felt that there was something stifling in his heart, and he had to get it out. He turned on the computer and skillfully logged into a forum that he frequented. In the film section, he opened a new post. The title was, "Just came back from watching The Jianghu of Youth. Talk about your feelings about watching it." After typing on the keyboard for 7 or 8 minutes and editing for a few more minutes, a short film review post came out. Su Kai looked at the edited content on the screen. He hesitated for a moment and then hit the enter key. Pa! The sound was crisp. Chapter 829. Saturday night was the most active time for the netizens. For the single dogs who lived in the city, playing games, reading blogs, watching videos, and bragging on the forum was undoubtedly the cheapest form of entertainment. It was already past 10 o'clock. In the Jianghai Community Forum, the number of online members and visitors increased. The number of posts in the major sections such as miscellaneous topics, national outlook, military, entertainment, film and television reached new highs. As a famous online community in the country, Jianghai's forum had always been very popular. Often when a post was refreshed, it would sync and disappear in a few seconds. Only posts that were enhanced by the moderator could squeeze into the front page. And tonight, at least half of the popular posts on the front page of the film and television section were related to the recently released Young Pugilistic World. Moreover, they were all film reviews written by gods. There were many gods in the Jianghai Community Film and Television section. Their common characteristic was that they stayed online for a long time. The frequency of their posts was very high. Moreover, all of them could be considered as jokers. When they commented on popular or obscure movies and TV series, they were often very sharp. Many times, they were like venomous snakes. However, generally speaking, the film and television works that were criticized by these gods were not necessarily failures. There was no lack of box office sales or high ratings, but they were still able to influence a group of audiences. In fact, there was no lack of real film critics, freelancers, or even media reporters among the great gods in Jianghai. There was definitely a certain gap between their appreciation and that of the general public. Just like the works they praised, the box office might be so bleak that they couldn't even recover the cost. This week, Jianghai Community had a movie viewing event and received a lot of free tickets. Some of them were given as rewards to senior members, and some were used for lucky draws. Therefore, today, Young Pugilistic World was released nationwide. There were many people who ran to the film and television section to watch it. Of course, This also included a group of gods. Tonight, the firepower of the gods in Jianghai was all focused on young pugilistic world. Spending 150 million to get this thing, I'm really laughing. Leaving halfway through, it's really boring. The essence of young pugilistic world is all in the trailer. After watching the trailer, there's no need to buy a ticket. I wasted 100 yuan. It was simply a flood of negative comments. Su Kai's post, I just finished watching Young World in Pugilistic World. Share your thoughts on the movie, was also one of them. Compared to those gurus who were spewing venom, Su Kai's post was undoubtedly more neutral. It was also written in great detail and was very realistic. Therefore, the moderator added the essence of the post and sent it to the front page. The number of clicks quickly exceeded 10,000. Su Kai's post was filled with resentment and ridicule. As a fan of the novel, he had bought all the legal books of Young Wanderer and read them twice. He quite liked this martial arts novel, and he was looking forward to the movie that was adapted into a movie. Especially after watching the exciting trailer, he spent a lot of effort to get tickets. In the end, he brought his girlfriend to watch the show at night and was splashed with a bucket of cold water. This was because Wanhao Pictures had adapted Young Pugilistic World to a ridiculous degree. The story was fragmented, the connection was stiff, and there were problems with the logic. Although there were many stars in the movie, there were no characters that made people's eyes light up. To be fair, the special effects of this movie were done quite well. The giant screen effect was very outstanding. However, the fighting in the movie was completely magical, and it was completely different from the martial arts style in the original novel. In other words, Young Pugilistic World was actually a magical special effects film in the guise of wuxia. Coupled with the messy relationships between the characters and a third-rate romance story, it was all boiled into a steaming pot and served up to the table. Su Kai felt that it was not delicious. It was filled with a strange taste, and it was not the taste that he had imagined. He had already watched a few similar blockbusters a few years ago, when the IP of online novels was very popular. He was already tired of it, and the special effects of Young Wanderer was far from being comparable to the top Hollywood blockbusters. Then what was the selling point of this movie? Was it Hua Fei's face that had no acting skills and only knew how to act cool? Su Kai was really disappointed. He felt like he had been cheated. The dissatisfaction and ridicule he expressed in the post were acknowledged by many netizens who had also watched the movie that night. Everyone had booked tickets in advance or snatched tickets. They rushed into the theater excitedly, bought drinks and popcorn, and were waiting to enjoy a feast for the eyes. In the end, just as Su Kai had said, everyone's appetite had been whetted by the early publicity of Young Wanderer, which was why there was such a big gap. If one did not have such high expectations, they could actually just watch the movie with popcorn. The most disappointed people were probably the fans of the original novel. There were also a few fans in the movie version. According to them, they wanted to stuff the script into the scriptwriter's mouth so that he could swallow it and then take it out. Maybe the things that he would take out would be even more valuable. At the same time, on the Waves blog, the comments on Young Wanderer were polarized. One side was cheering and strongly recommending it, while the other side was criticizing it and criticizing it. There were also many people who did not know the truth but liked to join in the fun. The two sides were fighting fiercely in the official V of Young Wanderer. Actually, be it praise or criticism, the success or failure of a movie was ultimately determined by the box office. There were many blockbuster movies that had been scolded badly, and some of them even became more popular the more they were scolded. It was hard to say. The next morning, the box office rankings on Guangying website were updated on time. Young Wanderer's first day of screening was 42.75%, with a box office of 107 million. It broke 100 million on the first day. Although it was not rare for a movie to break 100 million on the first day, as a purely domestic movie, Young Wanderer's box office breaking 100 million on the first day was still very dazzling. It was worthy of the media praising it. On the internet, the voices of those who were criticizing it were suppressed by the box office of more than 100 million. The influence of a forum like Shanghai Community Movie Version could not be compared to the Waves blog. No matter how fiercely they criticized it, it did not affect the overall situation. On the 6th of July, Young Wanderer's box office hit 125 million. It had accumulated 232 million in 2 days. It showed a strong momentum and caused many cinemas to increase the number of screenings, crushing the other movies that were released at the same time. But no one expected that on the 7th of July, the box office of Young Wanderer would suddenly take a big dive. It dropped from 125 million on the previous day to 61 million, a drop of more than 50%. Such a drastic drop caused the industry to be in an uproar. Chapter 830. Whether a movie can sell well at the box office or not, there are many factors that affect it. In addition to its own quality, audience preferences, and even the timing of its release are very important. Publicity and distribution are also indispensable, and cannot be generalized. Some movies cost only a few million, and finally got a box office of more than 100 million, and some invested hundreds of millions, and ended up in a mess. There is no fixed model that can be applied to box office results. Therefore, in the movie market, box office plunges from time to time, and it is not worth making a fuss about. But the problem with Young Jianghu is that the previous publicity was so grand that the money spent was almost as much as the production cost of the film. After the premiere, the reviews were good, the box office exceeded 100 million on the first day, and it earned 230 million in 2 days. It should have been a hit film, so how could it be directly cut in half overnight? In fact, the truth is very easy to find, and that is the audience's reputation. Today is the age of the internet, and the speed at which hundreds of millions of netizens accept information is extremely fast, and the main audience in the movie market overlaps with netizens very high, so it is easy to be affected by online public opinion. Of course, the film producers and distributors are well aware of the role of online public opinion. At least 50% of the publicity budget is aimed at online media, in order to firmly grasp the direction of public opinion on the internet. However, now the vast number of netizens are no longer so easy to fool. After more than 10 years of indiscriminate bombardment of all kinds of information, they have their own trusted source channels to obtain information on the internet, and have also mastered a lot of ability to distinguish internet water army. They believe in their own judgment rather than blindly follow other people's opinions. It is simply impossible to control the thoughts of hundreds of millions of netizens. 2 days after Young Jianghu was released, related movie reviews and viewing experiences appeared in blogs, forums, and QQ groups in large numbers, deeply affecting those potential audiences. And the word of mouth of Young Jianghu festered very quickly on the internet. The situation on the blog was not bad, but in many forums like Shanghai Community Film and Television Version, as well as many QQ groups, this martial arts movie was criticized to pieces. A large number of people who have watched the movie shouted that they were fooled, thinking that they spent money to watch a bad movie. Many people were angry that they were deceived by the promotional video. It was like going to meet with a girlfriend of many years, only to see the other party's bare face. The complaints about the plot of the movie were even more overwhelming, and everyone said that their IQ had been insulted. The movie industry was getting more and more developed. Every year, a large number of new movies were released, and the domestic audience had seen more and more blockbusters, so there was a higher demand and viewing standard for movies. More than a decade ago, any Hollywood blockbuster could sweep the domestic market. Today, it no longer exists. The box office of the homogenized blockbusters is getting more and more dismal. Only the real premium products can win people's love and pursuit. As a new generation in the industry, although Wanhao Pictures had a strong background and great ambition, their judgment of the domestic film market was obviously still a few years ago. They thought that they would be successful by relying on high cost, many stars, special effects, and enhanced publicity. In the end, they were slapped hard in the face by reality. The market was cruel. On the 8th of July, Young Pugilistic World's box office continued to plummet, dropping to 35 million. It could be considered a new record. Of course, it was definitely not a glorious record that was worth bragging about. If the trend continued to fall, it would be impossible for Wanhao Pictures to recoup their capital, because the production cost of Young Pugilistic World and the promotion cost nearly 300 million. Even if they broke even, they would need at least 600 million in the box office. Getting 320 million in 4 days, it shouldn't be a problem to exceed 600 million. However, the drop was too tragic, to the extent that it made people feel hopeless. There were also people in the industry that if Young Pugilistic World wanted to recoup their capital, there was too much pressure on the cinema chains. However, they could recoup their capital or even make a profit through the sale of the copyrights. However, a few days ago, these people in the industry thought that Young Pugilistic World's box office wouldn't have much pressure to exceed 1 billion. It could even reach 2 billion. What was worse was that because the box office of Young Pugilistic Worlds dropped too quickly, the cinema chains only reacted on the 9th and greatly reduced the number of screenings. This made things worse for Wanhao Pictures. Of course, Wanhao Pictures wasn't willing to give up. On one hand, they continued to promote, on the other hand, they used their connections to ask for help from the cinema chains, hoping to maintain a relatively high number of screenings. However, the market was cruel and merciless. As a new force in the industry, Wanhao Pictures had many more enemies than friends. If there was a chance to hit them when they were down, they definitely wouldn't mind giving it a push. The decrease in the number of screenings for Young Pugilistic World was about the same as the drop in the box office on the 6th and 7th. It was completely powerless and couldn't even struggle on its deathbed. Not only that, the dismal box office and the bad reputation made the peripherals of Young Pugilistic World almost unable to be sold. Wanhao Pictures' investment in this area was all for naught. On the 12th of July, Young Pugilistic World had a cumulative box office of 367 million in 7 days. The number of screenings dropped to less than 10%. It was destined to lose everything. This also taught Wanhao Pictures, this rich second generation, a good lesson. Actually, it wasn't only Wanhao Pictures that was affected. The industry was also greatly shaken. Through the example of Young Pugilistic World's box office, many people realized the cruelty of the market. At the same time, they started to have doubts about films and TV works with wuxia themes. Some film companies originally planned to follow the trend of shooting wuxia dramas, but they all stopped their plans. The truth proved that their decision was correct. The new 7 Heroes and 5 Gallants, which was officially released on the 12th, only had a box office of 27 million on the first day. This made the producer, Dottie Pictures, want to cry but have no tears. The worst was Wanderer of the Pugilistic World, which was released on the 15th, dragged down by the market. The box office on the first day was actually less than 10 million. It was a complete loss. All of a sudden, the reputation of wuxia movies plummeted. Even the value of the previously sought-after martial arts IP fell. The novel rights that were previously priced at millions were now unsold even after a discount. The situation of chasing up and down did not only occur in the stock market. On the 17th, the first Hollywood blockbuster during the summer vacation, the animated masterpiece, Dream Flyer, produced by Disney, was released. The number of screenings on the first day was more than 50%, which also gave the 3 domestic wuxia movies the final blow. A glorious start, but a dismal ending. This inevitably made people doubt the smiling, proud Wanderer, which would be released during the National Day period. Could the latter still support the sky of wuxia movies? Chapter 831. Disney's animated blockbusters had dominated the domestic summer period for a long time, but in recent years, they had been surpassed by domestic films. However, as one of the top film giants in Hollywood, no one would doubt the quality and box office of Dream Flyer. Young Jianghu, The 7 Heroes and 5 Righteous, and Vagabond were all released before Dream Flyer, just to take advantage of the time difference and compete for the box office market first. In the end, who would have thought that the 3 popular martial arts movies would end up in such a miserable state? They didn't even have the chance to kill each other before they were crushed by the Disney movies that came later. On the 20th, the box office of Young Jianghu barely exceeded 400 million, and on the internet, there were more and more gossip about Young Jianghu buying the box office. At this point, Wanhao Pictures basically gave up on the follow-up publicity of this blockbuster, because everyone knew that Young Jianghu was beyond its power. If they continued to spend money on publicity, it would be like throwing money into the water. Even so, The Seven Heroes and Five Righteous was released for 8 days, and the box office was less than 50 million, which was a huge loss. Goulet, who had been jumping up and down on the internet some time ago, didn't even update his blog, and even deleted many of his previous blog posts. The higher they held it, the higher they jumped, the harder they fell. As for Vagabond, the producers were about to jump off a building, and the investors even wanted to beg for food. And these 3 martial arts films, the audience's comments were uniformly bad, such as, "the same old," and "the plot is too melodramatic," could be found on the 3 films. Several film companies couldn't put their knives back into the sheath, and they accused each other of vicious competition, which made people very speechless. In the eyes of the people in the industry, the martial arts IP that had been hyped up a while ago was now completely ruined. Big bubbles had been burst, and they were basically declared dead. Such a dramatic scene made many people focus their attention on the initiator of the martial arts IP, the smiling, the proud wanderer, starring Lu Chen. The wuxia theme had failed. It had almost exhausted the market of this IP. Could the smiling, the proud wanderer, which had been shot and was in post-production, turn the tide in the National Day period and re-establish the banner of wuxia movies? There were not many people who were optimistic about the movie. Although The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer was adapted from the most popular wuxia novel, and it had a big director and a big star in it, the box office was not optimistic because the audience was no longer interested in it. Perhaps the fame of Lu Chen, Chen Feier, Lu Gangsheng, and other big names could attract a lot of fans to buy tickets and enter the cinema. However, they would only be spending the fans, and there would not be much glory in breaking even. No one knew where the evil wind came from. While criticizing the 3 failures of Young Jianghu, the media did not forget to step on the smiling, the proud wanderer to prove their foresight. Chen Fei media remained silent on the media that was stirring up trouble. It gave people the feeling that no matter what others said, it had nothing to do with Chen Fei media. Some people couldn't help but feel restless because of this. Are you just going to keep silent? At the headquarters of Chen Fei Media, Lok Shi, who had endured for more than half a month, finally couldn't stand it anymore. She ran to the special effects studio and found Lu Chen, who had been supervising the post-production. She pulled him aside and complained, "Someone spread a rumor on the internet, saying that, The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer, will not be continued after this one, and that it is an unfinished work." Chen Fei Media had announced a long time ago that The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer would be divided into 3 films, and the 3 films would be shot consecutively and released separately from this year to next year. Such a rumor was not completely unreasonable. The martial arts films had been made to such an extent that the box office market was a big problem. Under such circumstances, if Chen Fei Media continued to invest in the production of the remaining 2 films, there was no doubt that it would be a great risk. After spending hundreds of millions, they would lose everything in the end. It would not only be a blow to Chen Fei Media, but also to Lu Chen. After all, he was the one who started the wuxia trend. If they were rational, the last 2 films should be suspended indefinitely until the market turned around. That was the safest and most rational choice, and also the most logical and reasonable choice. These people, Lu Chen shook his head and said, "They just want to see us make a fool of ourselves. They hope that we will spend all the money on The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer. It would be the best if we fail." As for the sinister intentions behind the rumor, Lu Chen was as clear as a blazing fire. He had already experienced the filth of some people. Being in this circle, he was no longer surprised by it. But they wanted to see Lu Chen make a fool of himself, and Lu Chen also wanted to see them make a fool of themselves. Lu Shi rolled her eyes at him and said, "If we don't do anything soon, we will really become a joke. It's almost August now. Is the promotion of The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer going to start?" Because of the cancellation, although the budget and plan of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer had been made a long time ago, it had not been put into practice. It needed to be launched at the right time. The National Day would start on October 1st, and there were still 2 months until now. It was a bit long for the promotion cycle, but it was no problem to release the preview. Many Hollywood blockbusters would release the preview a year or more in advance, and promote at the same time. Lu Chen thought for a while and said, "Let's wait until the influence of those movies is over." Lu Chen was a human, not a god. Although he did not have high hopes for Junior Pugilistic World and other competitors, the current situation was beyond his expectations. The reputation of the martial arts movies was ruined, and it would definitely have an impact on The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer. So if they started the promotion now, the audience would not only not buy it, but might even have a rebellious mentality. Lu Shi calmed down and felt that Lu Chen's concerns were reasonable. She said with hatred, "It's all because of those sh*t stirrers who hurt others without benefiting themselves. Such a good story was ruined by them." Lu Chen smiled, and his eyes fell on the computer screen on the workbench not far away. The latter's matching host was calculating a CG picture. True gold fears no fire. "I have confidence in The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer. There is nothing to worry about." Lu Chen said confidently, "It's not easy to follow the trend, not to mention that they didn't even follow the real trend. They deserve to shoot themselves in the foot. We should follow our own steps, and don't be led by others. As for the public opinion, let's go our own way, and let others talk." Chapter 832. After nearly 4 years, Lu Chen had become much more mature than he used to be. Now he had completely integrated the memories of 3 lives from the dream world. After experiencing the ups and downs of the entertainment circle, he was no longer inferior to those real superstars in terms of breadth of mind and experience. If Lu Chen had the popularity of a superstar a year and a half ago, now he had the temperament of a superstar and stood at the peak of his life. Because of this, Lu Chen would not care about the gains and losses in front of him. As long as he did not involve the kind of scandal that could ruin his reputation, ordinary public opinion could not shake him at all. Then why should he take the initiative to get involved in these things? The final proof would always be the work. Lu Chen had not only invested a lot of money into this film, but he had also put a lot of effort into it. The first part of the filming was completed on time, and the second part of the production was even more important. How could he have the time and energy to argue with others? Of course, Lu Shi was not reconciled. With her temper, if others trampled on her, she should beat them back fiercely. She did not want to be looked down upon by others without saying a word. But on the other hand, her sister's support for Lu Chen was unconditional. Since Lu Chen decided to ignore it, she also gave up several publicity counterattack plans that she had thought of. She concentrated on managing and rectifying the internal affairs of Chinfei Media, and did not let the outside public opinion affect the mood of the company's employees. And Chinfei Media's uncooperative attitude of, "You do your own thing, I do my own thing," made the media who intended to stir up trouble unable to do anything, like a mouse pulling a tortoise. After a while, they naturally gave up. In today's society, the speed of information transmission was too fast. Every day, new news emerged one after another. It was not an earth-shattering event, so once the heat passed, it naturally became silent. The sad ones were Wanhao Pictures, Land Pictures, and Crown Pictures. The 3 of them were big players in the industry, and the latter 2 were even veteran film companies. This time, they failed miserably. Although the box office failure of a movie wouldn't hurt them to the point where they couldn't make a comeback, it would still make them a joke in the industry, and they would be humiliated. Time passed quietly, and Beijing entered the month of wildfire. Young Pugilistic World, The New 7 Heroes and 5 Gallants, and Pugilistic World Wanderer, were removed from the domestic cinemas one after another, ending their journey pathetically. Crushed by Disney's summer animated blockbuster, Dream Flyer, none of the 3 martial arts movies could rely on the box office to earn back their investment, and all of them suffered heavy losses. The impact of this was that many films of the same genre that were in preparation were aborted, and investors no longer favored martial arts films. The vigorous ones at the beginning had now disappeared. At the same time, many Hollywood blockbusters were released in the country. They were like wolves fighting for the box office, which also attracted the attention of the audience. No one would care about a few failures. On the Waves blog, a well-known film critic concluded that the fate of films like Young Pugilistic World was a failed attempt by domestic films to take a new path. If they wanted to break out of the mold of the original domestic films, they had to find another way. His view was supported by many people in the industry. However, not many people talked about The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, which was expected to be released during the National Day. People were generally pessimistic. They thought that with the precedent of Young Pugilistic World, it would be difficult for The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer to create outstanding results. Some people even predicted that The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer would be Lu Chen's Waterloo, which would end his invincibility. The summer vacation passed like this. Looking back at the whole of July and August, except for 2 low-budget films that won a good reputation, there was nothing worth mentioning about domestic films. Most of the box office was harvested by Hollywood blockbusters. September 10, 20 days before the screening of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer. Very good. At the headquarters of Chinfei Media, in an audition room temporarily converted from a small conference room, when the projection screen displayed the ending credits, Chen Guoji, who was sitting in the middle of the front row, stood up and said in a firm tone, "Excellent, better than I expected." There was a burst of applause and laughter in the audition room. Chen Guoji reached out his hand to Lu Chen and said with emotion, "Lu Chen, I am very happy and honored to be able to cooperate with you in this movie." The movie that had just finished playing in the audition room was the digitally edited version of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer. Although Chen Guoji was the director of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, his work was mainly focused on the shooting of the early stage. The special effects, editing, dubbing, music and so on were basically handled by Lu Chen. To be honest, when Chen Guoji took over The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, he didn't care too much about it. He was mainly moved by Lu Chen's sincerity, and also owed him a favor. However, after shooting the movie and seeing the final result, the great director's heart was also fiercely shocked. He even slightly regretted that he did not put in 100% of his effort when directing the shooting. There were some details in the movie that were not perfect. The relationship between the characters was not clear enough, and the plot twist was a little stiff. From a professional point of view, there were still many problems. However, these problems couldn't cover up the brilliance of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, especially the effects of several key scenes, which made him, a famous director, feel refreshed. Chen Guoji's professional sensitivity told him that this would be a blockbuster film. Thinking of some people's negative comments on the media not long ago, Chen Guoji couldn't help smiling. "Director Chen, you are too kind," Lu Chen said quickly. "It is my honor and luck to be able to cooperate with you." Lu Chen was sincere. Without Chen Guoji, the senior director, the shooting of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer wouldn't be so smooth. Besides, he learned a lot from Chen Guoji. It was no exaggeration to say that Chen Guoji was his mentor. He deserved his respect. Chen Guoji shook his head with a smile and said, "I am ashamed to say that. I didn't do much, but I still have the title of director." After a pause, he asked, "It will be released in 20 days. Why didn't I see anything from your promotion?" As a film with an investment of hundreds of millions, the promotion of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer was seriously lagging behind. Normally, it should have started 1 or 2 months earlier. Of course, Chen Guoji was very clear about the situation 1 or 2 months ago. It was really not suitable for promotion. But it was a bit too much if there was no promotion until now. Chapter 833. There was a reason why Chen Guoji cared about the marketing of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer. First of all, he was the director of the movie. Although the box office success or failure couldn't shake his position in the industry, who would want his movie to be ignored in the market? Secondly, he appreciated Lu Chen. After more than half a year of cooperation, Chen Guoji had a good understanding of Lu Chen. He appreciated Lu Chen's character, talent, and dedication in work very much. He didn't want Lu Chen to make a low-level mistake at the most critical moment. Nowadays, the box office of the movies was getting higher and higher, so it was more and more dependent on marketing. Especially those blockbusters with amazing investment, they often needed a lot of marketing expenses, which often took up more than 30% of the total budget. 2 months ago, Young Pugilistic World, The New 7 Heroes and 5 Gallants, and Pugilistic World Wanderer, had launched a publicity war. The amount of money invested was not a small amount. Putting aside the final tragic result, the public opinion formed at that time was undoubtedly very strong, attracting the attention of countless people. Now the 3 wuxia movies all failed, and even the reputation of the whole theme was dragged down. Under such circumstances, the smiling, the proud wanderer was in an awkward situation, which undoubtedly needed to be solved through marketing. But it was obviously not easy to rebuild the confidence of the audience. So Chen Guozhi was very worried. Was there enough time to carry out large-scale marketing in the remaining 20 days? Regarding Chen Guozhi's question, Lu Chen smiled and said, "Director Chen, don't worry. We have already started the marketing work. I believe you will see the results soon." In fact, strictly speaking, the marketing of the smiling, the proud wanderer had already started last year, but they didn't invest a lot of money in the media to advertise. Originally, the official marketing period of the smiling, the proud wanderer would be in July or August, but it was messed up by someone, so they could only delay it until now. But the marketing and publicity department of Chen Fei Media was not just for show. The relevant preparations had already been completed, and they were just waiting for the right time to help the smiling, the proud wanderer regain its reputation as a wuxia movie. If other young people said this to him, Chen Guozhi would only think that they were exaggerating. But as for Lu Chen, he chose to believe Lu Chen because of the trust built up in more than half a year of cooperation. "That's good." After thinking about it, Chen Guozhi said to Lu Chen, "I also know a lot of people in the media. If there's a need, I can more or less help. Also, are you not going to attend the Shanghai International Film Festival next month?" Shanghai International Film Festival. Lu Chen was stunned. He had never thought of sending the smiling, proud wanderer to the Shanghai International Film Festival. The Shanghai International Film Festival was one of the 3 major film festivals in the country, and it was the earliest one. It was established in the early 1990s and was held once a year. It was also the first film festival in the country to be recognized by the International Film Producers Association. It was one of the 15 international A-list film festivals in the world and was recognized by the International Film Producers Association. Compared with the Beijing International Film Festival, which was also one of the 3 major film festivals, the Shanghai International Film Festival focused more on expanding the commercial market and encouraged diverse artistic creation. Therefore, it attracted many filmmakers from home and abroad to participate. Chen Guozhi said seriously, "Actually, I would prefer you to hold the premiere of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer at the Shanghai International Film Festival, but the timing is not right." The Shanghai International Film Festival was held in mid-October, right after the National Day. If The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer premiered at the Shanghai International Film Festival, it meant that it would miss the National Day. This was unacceptable to Lu Chen and Chen Fei Media. Compared with the box office, attending the film festival was not important at all. The purpose of attending the film festival was to expand the influence of the film. In the final analysis, it was still about the box office, not the other way around. Lu Chen smiled bitterly. "Yes, the timing is too bad. If the Shanghai International Film Festival was held half a month earlier, he would definitely try to send the Smiling, Proud Wanderer there, because it was a good promotion point." But it was said that the Shanghai International Film Festival was going to change the time to June, which was before the summer holiday. That way, many domestic films could premiere at the film festival. Of course, the first film of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer would not be able to catch up with this wave, but the next one might be able to. Chen Guozhi said, "It doesn't matter if we can't catch up with the premiere, we can send it to the exhibition." He further explained, "We don't need to attend the awards, because it's meaningless. The purpose of sending it to the exhibition is to promote the smiling, proud wanderer, to overseas sellers and the market. Lu Qin suddenly understood. In fact, Lu Qin didn't attach much importance to several domestic film festivals. Whether it was the Capital International Film Festival or the Shanghai International Film Festival, the water in them was very deep, especially in the award link. They often made some jaw-dropping news, and their reputation among the film audience was not very good. But if they only sent it to the exhibition to attract sellers from other countries, it would be very good. Especially in Southeast Asian countries, the smiling, proud wanderer should have a certain market. Using the Shanghai International Film Festival to promote it would undoubtedly save a lot of effort. After thinking it through, Lu Qin immediately nodded and said, "Then I will ask my company to contact the organizer of the film festival." "Is it too late to sign up now?" Chen Guizhi smiled and said, "I have already signed up for you. You can ask your company to contact them." Under normal circumstances, the applicant for the smiling, the proud wanderer should be Qinfei Media. No one was qualified. However, Chen Guizhi was a famous director in the country. It was very easy for him to inform the organizer in advance. It was nothing more than letting Qinfei Media fill in the formalities. Lu Qin was very grateful. "Thank you, Director Chen." "Don't mention it," Chen Guizhi shook his head and said, "It's not a big deal. That's all I can do for you. I really hope the smiling, proud wanderer can create a new genre of domestic films, and go out of China to the world." He sighed and said, "Nowadays, domestic films have reached the stage of innovation. I think wuxia films have the potential to do that, and the smiling, proud wanderer also has the ability to do that." He didn't mention the other wuxia films, such as Jiang Hu Yang, because after watching the sample of the smiling, proud wanderer, he thought those were just clumsy followers. They didn't even imitate the essence of wuxia films. They couldn't even be counted as real wuxia films. Chen Guizhi was looking forward to the official screening of the smiling, proud wanderer. Chapter 834. After sending Chen Guizhi away, Lu Qin informed Lu Shi to hold an internal meeting of the company. General Affairs Department, Marketing Department, Client Department, Finance Department, Logistics Department, all the department heads, as well as the management personnel who were not out for work, rushed to the meeting room as soon as they received the notice. Lu Qin didn't like meetings. The daily operation and management of Qinfei Media was also managed by Lu Shi. Although he held the most shares, he was usually a hands-off manager. But today's situation was very different, because this meeting was the promotion meeting for the smiling, the proud wanderer. It was not only related to the box office of this movie, but also related to the future of Lu Chen's wuxia IP plan. At present, the people in the company were still stable, but the influence of the outside world always existed. The failure of wuxia movies such as Young Man in Pugilistic World made many people a little unconfident. Therefore, Lu Chen personally attended this meeting. The purpose was to gather people's morale, twist the whole company into a rope, and launch the publicity and screening work of the smiling, the proud wanderer. And the effect was very good. When the middle and senior management personnel of Qinfei Media saw Lu Chen and Lu Shi sitting at the main seats, they all showed excitement, and the atmosphere in the meeting room quickly became enthusiastic. Although Qinfei Media was established for less than 2 years, it expanded very fast. At present, it had more than 300 employees, set up a complete department, and hired a group of experienced and capable management personnel. These employees and the department managers could be said to be the solid support of Lu Chen. Without their hard work, it would be impossible for Lu Chen to realize his ambition and create one peak after another in his career. On the contrary, in the eyes of the employees of these companies, Lu Chen is not only the top star in China, but also an idol who has never failed. Whether it is singing, making movies, making TV series, producing variety shows or even writing scripts, he has shown extraordinary talent, sweeping the market and sweeping away all obstacles. It was this halo of invincibility that allowed Lu Chen to have an extremely high status in Qinfei Media. Although he did not spend much time in the company, his position as the soul of the company was unshakable. After everyone had arrived, Lu Shi immediately announced the start of the meeting and briefly explained the theme of the meeting. That was the 21-day marketing campaign for The Smiling, Proud Wanderer. From tomorrow to the premiere on October 1st, the promotional period of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer was 21 days. Chinfei Media would invest a lot of money in these 3 weeks to bring the movie back to the public's attention. Lu Chen had set a budget of 50 million yuan for the first song of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, which was almost half of the shooting cost. Actually, a lot of this money had already been spent, because a lot of media advertising spaces needed to be purchased in advance, and there were other planning activities and so on. Manager Fang, contact Beijing Television this afternoon about the advertisement placement. Supervisor Lin, how's the discussion with the subway company going? When will we be able to install the billboard? And the QQ network, we need to invest more. This meeting was still presided over by Luke Shi. After 3 or 4 years of honing, her sister had quickly grown into an elite in the industry. She gave orders with confidence, and the directors and managers of the various departments all obeyed her orders. After arranging the work, Lu Shi turned to Lu Chen and said, "You say a few words." Lu Chen nodded and reached out to press the switch of the microphone. He organized the words in his mind and then said, "I won't say more about the work. I believe everyone will be able to do it well. I'll just talk about the goal I want to achieve here." Lu Chen looked around, glanced at the faces of the department managers and directors one by one, and said in a deep voice, "When The Smiling, Proud Wanderer started shooting, a reporter once asked me what the box office expectation of this movie was. My answer is 1 to 1. 5 billion. Hearing the two numbers from Lu Chen's mouth, everyone's expression was a little subtle. At that time, when Lu Chen said that The Smiling, Proud Wanderer could have a box office of more than 1 billion, most people still believed it, because Lu Chen's first work, A Chinese Ghost Story, had a box office of more than 1 billion in China, and The Smiling, Proud Wanderer was a film adapted from a popular IP. With the participation of several big stars, there was no reason that the box office would not be as good as its predecessor. But now I'm afraid many people don't think so, because with the bloody example of young Jianghu, it was difficult to make people have full confidence in The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, which was delayed until the National Day. Young Jianghu was also a popular IP, with a large investment, a luxury star lineup, and a huge amount of publicity. As a result, it didn't even recover the cost. As for the new 7 Heroes and 5 Righteous and The Wanderer, it was even worse. The box office failure of the new 7 Heroes and 5 Righteous even dragged down the parent company of the Land Pictures, and the stock price fell to the limit. The summer period that made the major film companies heartbroken had just passed. To be honest, no one had any idea whether Lu Chen's original bold words could be realized, and they even subconsciously felt that it was better to be cautious. For example, the break-even profit of 500 million to 700 million in the box office should be more realistic. Lu Chen looked at the expressions of these department managers and supervisors, and he could see through their thoughts as if they were watching a fire. He knocked on the conference table with his fingers and said, "Now, I still insist on the same box office prediction," and asked the company to be unified in the publicity. A department manager couldn't help but ask, "Director Lu, do you mean that we still insist on the box office prediction of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer in the 1 to 1? 5 billion in the publicity?" In his opinion, such a request from Lu Chen was really unnecessary. Things were different now. If the final box office did not meet the expectations, wouldn't Lu Chen be slapping himself in the face? It was normal to make a mistake the first time, and it would be easy to become a joke if he insisted on his own opinion when the situation changed. It would be a heavy blow to Chinfei Media and Lu Chen. However, Lu Chen's answer was extremely firm, "Yes, because I have confidence in The Smiling, Proud Wanderer. The quality and effect of Sword of Mount Hua have reached and even exceeded my expectations. So I believe that the box office of this film can completely achieve our goal, so we don't need to be cautious in the publicity, and don't be affected by other people's failure." The conference room was extremely quiet, and only Lu Chen's sonorous voice echoed. His strong confidence infected everyone in the room. Chapter 835. Jiangcheng, Light-Speed Internet Cafe. When night fell, the internet cafe gradually became bustling with activity. It was bustling with activity. Lightspeed Internet Cafe was originally called Lightspeed Internet Cafe. It had been open for more than 10 years. Although the current situation of the internet cafe industry was not as good as it used to be, and many internet cafes had already closed down, this internet cafe could still be maintained by relying on its geographical advantage and persistent low-price strategy. However, in the second half of last year, the district issued a notice to rectify all small and medium-sized internet cafes. Lightspeed Internet Cafe faced the situation of closing down. The boss had no choice but to transfer it to someone else to avoid losing everything in the end. After the new boss took over, he bought the business room next door and used the reorganization time to upgrade the internet cafe. Thus, there was the current Lightspeed Internet Cafe. The name only changed a few words, but it immediately appeared to be a lot more lofty. Of course, the consumption was also incomparable to before. The internet fees increased by several times, scaring away many old customers who were short of money. Fortunately, the new boss still knew how to do business. He continuously introduced a number of preferential measures, such as 50 free if you charge 100, 150 free if you charge 200. He still retained many people. Wang Pu was one of the old customers who stayed. Wang Pu moved here more than a year ago. Although the conditions of the new rental apartment were better than before, and the landlord gave him a network cable, he could enjoy free broadband. However, the feeling of staying in the rental apartment to surf the internet was obviously not as good as the internet cafe. Thus, he became a regular customer of the internet cafe. His first choice was of course the nearest Lightspeed Internet Cafe. Wang Pu's income was not bad, and his family did not have any financial burdens. In addition, he was a single dog, so his usual expenses were not high. Therefore, upgrading the Lightspeed Internet Cafe to Lightspeed Internet Cafe was not a big deal for him. He directly applied for a 500 free membership card, which was enough for half a year's expenses. The Internet Cafe was a bit expensive, but the environment was really much better. It was all non-smoking areas. At least, it was not as foul as before. There were a lot more girls who came to surf the internet. Wang Pu had just sat down in his old seat when a girl came next to him. Wang Pu skillfully turned on the computer and quickly logged into his QQ number. The headset on the table suddenly emitted a DDD sound that lasted for a few seconds. The girl next to him heard it and curiously glanced at Wang Pu. Wang Pu didn't notice. He quickly opened his QQ and replied to the messages one by one. These messages basically came from QQ groups. Wang Pu had set up a total of 7 QQ groups, all of which were fan groups of the Smiling, Proud Wanderer. The total number of members in the group had exceeded 20,000, which was considered a small influence in the martial arts circle. Because he couldn't use QQ during the day, Wang Pu used the evening to manage his QQ group and discuss the plot of the book with the group members. Wang Pu was one of the earliest fans of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer. When The Smiling, Proud Wanderer was serialized on Waves, he had organized many voting activities to support it. He was also a loyal fan of the author, Memories of Present and Past. Wang Pu was the happiest when Qinfei Media bought the copyright of The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer. He couldn't wait to see his favorite book on the big screen. The group members in the QQ group were also very concerned about this. The topic of discussion changed from the novel to the movie. Especially when they knew that Lu Qin, Chen Feier, Lu Gangsheng, Tan Hong and other big names were going to star in The Smiling, Proud Wanderer. They were all very excited. As a result, the release date of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer was pushed back again and again until it was released during the National Day. Wang Pu was a bit unhappy about this. Then he recently saw the news on the internet that due to the box office failure of Young Wanderer and other martial arts movies, The Smiling, Proud Wanderer may not be released as scheduled. He really didn't feel good in his heart. He always felt lost and inexplicably restless. Especially seeing that the National Day was not far away, there was no movement from Qinfei Media, which seemed to confirm this rumor from another aspect. Group leader, you finally came. Have you seen the poster of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer? The stills of the smiling, proud wanderer are also out. Group leader, you have to send red envelopes. Well, there is also a cosplay competition. Is anyone in the group participating? If you want to go, bring me. Ha ha ha, I am going to watch it now. Seeing the messages in the QQ group, Wang Pu was a bit confused. The stills of the smiling, proud wanderer are out? He really didn't know anything. It was also because of the secrecy of the smiling, proud wanderer and their indifference to the promotion. They had been shooting for more than half a year and there were only a few stills leaked out. It gave people a very mysterious feeling. Other movies started to hype up a year before they were released. Not to mention the stills, posters and promotional videos, there were all kinds of scandals and inside stories everywhere. The truth and falsehood were all over the place. In contrast, the smiling, proud wanderer was simply a clear stream. It didn't follow the normal pattern at all. Now that the stills were finally out, was it time to start the promotion? And what about the cosplay competition? Wang Pu didn't look for the answer in the group. He had to maintain the prestige of the group leader. He opened the browser and logged into the blog. He clicked on the official account of the smiling, proud wanderer in the followed list. The official account of the smiling, proud wanderer was also a weirdo in the blog of Waves. Especially in the past 6 months, there was basically no promotion except for the regular report of the production progress. It was so low-key that it felt sorry for the millions of fans who followed it. But the situation was obviously different today. The official account of the smiling, proud wanderer updated 3 blog posts in one go, including 5 promotional posters, hundreds of movie stills, and an announcement of a promotional activity. Wang Pu clicked on the first poster at the top of the list as fast as lightning. The high-resolution poster picture appeared clearly on the computer screen in the blink of an eye. So handsome. Wang Pu's eyes lit up. The main character of this poster was Linghu Chong, played by Lu Chen. He was wearing a gray shirt with a long sword hanging on his waist. There was a trace of unruly smile on his face. With the steep mountains behind him, there was an indescribable sense of freedom. This was the Linghu Chong in his heart. This was the first thought that came to Wang Pu's mind when he saw this poster. In addition to being handsome enough, the temperament that Lu Chen showed was completely in line with the description in the book. Most importantly, from the style, Wang Pu saw that the smiling, proud wanderer was different from other martial arts movies. That was the feeling of a martial arts hero. Chapter 836. So handsome. While Wang Pu was enjoying the first poster of the smiling, proud wanderer, a clear voice came from the side. Is this Lu Chen's new movie? Wang Pu couldn't help but turn his head and saw that the girl sitting next to him was curiously looking at his computer screen. Her sparkling eyes flashed with the light of surprise. This girl was in her 20s. She wasn't very beautiful and could barely be considered delicate and pretty. However, her body was brimming with youthfulness, which still made Wang Pu, an otaku, feel a little excited. Hearing the girl's question, he quickly said, "Yes, it is the poster of Lu Chen's The Smiling, Proud Wanderer. It just came out tonight." The girl smiled. "I am a fan of Lu Chen. I have heard of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer. It seems to be adapted from a martial arts novel. Is it going to be released soon?" Even if she is a fan, she is just a fan. Wang Pu complained in his heart, but he became more polite. It will be released on October 1st, National Day. The original novel is also very good. The character played by Lu Chen is called Linghu Chong. He wanted to introduce the story of the smiling, proud wanderer to her, but the girl was not interested at all. What attracted her was the beautiful poster on the screen. She moved her butt, picked up the mouse on the table and clicked on the next poster. Wang Pu closed his mouth and his attention was also attracted by the next poster. The protagonist of the second poster was changed to Chen Fei. She was dressed in a white traditional Han costume, which set off her heavenly fragrance. She waved her sword as if she was flying with the wind. Against the background of the beautiful river behind her, she looked like a fairy. Her otherworldly aura was blowing in the face. Ren Yingying. Wang Pu's heartbeat suddenly increased by 2 times. This was the Ren Yingying he liked the most in his heart. Chen Fei, is so beautiful, the girl sitting beside him praised sincerely. Wang Pu actually heard some envy and even jealousy in her voice. Different from those female stars who rely on plastic surgery, makeup and PS to maintain their image, Chen Fei is a real natural beauty. Her bare face is enough to kill a lot of her peers. Now her image in The Smiling, Proud and Arrogant Wanderer has raised her temperament a lot again. I have to save this poster and use it as my computer desktop. The girl sitting next to him didn't spend too much time admiring Chen Fei's poster. She clicked on the third one. The third poster was of Lu Gangsheng, who played the role of Xiang Wentian. In The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer, Xiang Wentian was also Wang Pu's favorite character. Among the male characters, Xiang Wentian was second only to Ling Huchong. Wang Pu thought that although Xiang Wentian was not a righteous person, he was good at martial arts, bold, resourceful, and had a bright personality. Lu Gangsheng, who was played by Lu Gangsheng, gave Wang Pu another surprise. Unconsciously, he had great expectations for The Smiling, the Proud Martial World, which would be released on October 1st. He had planned to watch it, but now he had to get support from the cinema. If it was interesting enough, he would watch it 2 or 3 times. The 5 movie posters were soon finished. What was more considerate was that the official account of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer provided high-resolution pictures for download. Can you send me this website address? The girl sitting next to him asked Wang Pu. I want to download these posters. I was just about to download it. Wang Pu suddenly had an idea and said, tell me your QQ number. I'll send it to you now. You can save it in your QQ network disk and watch it and download it at any time. The girl pursed her lips and smiled, but she still generously told him her QQ number. Wang Pu quickly added it, and at the same time, he downloaded the poster pictures on the blog and sent them to the other party. As Wang Pu said, the girl saved the picture file in the QQ disk. After thanking him, she got off the phone and left, which made his heart, which had just been stirred up, splashed a basin of cold water on it. If he got the QQ number, he still had a chance. Wang Pu comforted himself and continued to look at the stills released by the official account. There were more than 100 stills of the movie leaked on the official website. To a large extent, the style of the upcoming movie was displayed. The outstanding scenes made Wang Pu's heart itch. After browsing through all of them, he couldn't wait to open his QQ group. At this time, it was the most lively time in the QQ group. As the fan group of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, the most discussed topic was undoubtedly the movie posters and stills released by the official account. Lu Chen is so handsome. He's exactly the Ling Huchong I thought he was. I must go to the cinema on October 1st. This is the real martial arts style. What the hell was the previous Young Wanderer? It can't be compared at all. The box office deserves to be a flop. Ren Yingying is so tall, and Chen Fei is so beautiful. I was worried that The Smiling, Proud Wanderer would be made like those martial arts movies, which would ruin the classic. Now I'm finally relieved. Who knows when the movie tickets will be sold in advance. My Feishin account is already thirsty. Rest assured +1, looking at these comments in the group, Wang Pu couldn't help but smile. It seems that everyone's opinion is exactly the same. The posters and stills released by the official account of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer are really great. They completely beat the previous group of imitators. Thinking about the characters in Young Wanderer and Jianghu Wanderer, where are the characteristics of martial arts? They completely copy the routine of fantasy and fantasy. The decoration is gorgeous and the appearance is bright. They don't look like real characters at all. They only know how to sell their face. They don't have the temperament of a hero at all. To put it bluntly, compared with The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, those so-called martial arts movies have become trash in terms of character design. Although the movie hasn't been released yet, it's hard to say the specific quality, but at least this is a film that is loyal to the original and pays attention to quality. Wang Pu is looking forward to the National Day soon. On the evening of September 20th, the official account of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer released the movie posters and stills, which officially opened the publicity of this martial arts blockbuster, and immediately attracted the attention of countless fans and industry circles. The next night, at the same time, the official account released the first official trailer again. On the evening of the 22nd, the second trailer was released. Starting from the 21st, the promotional posters of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer appeared in major cinemas all over the country. The advertisements of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer appeared in the subway stations and bus stops of several major big cities. Not only that, Chinfei Media also announced that The Smiling, Proud Wanderer will participate in next month's Shanghai International Film Festival. At the same time, The Smiling, Proud Wanderer cosplay competition will be held at the Capital Animation Festival at the end of next month. Such a series of intensive publicity actions made this martial arts movie, which has been silent for a long time, suddenly reappear in everyone's eyes. Chapter 837. In modern society, the power of money was infinite. The advertising of any product was inseparable from the support of a large amount of money. Generally speaking, the more money was spent, the more people would be affected, and the deeper the level of influence would be. Of course, movies were no exception. In fact, movies were one of the industries that paid the most attention to advertising and marketing, especially Hollywood, the king of movies in the world. They invested an astonishing amount of money in this area every year. It was normal for a movie that invested $100 million to spend another $50 million on marketing. This kind of huge investment in advertising and marketing was also one of the mysteries of Hollywood movies that dominated the world. This year, with the continuous expansion of the domestic movie market, domestic movies also paid more and more attention to marketing, especially for blockbusters with high investment. They racked their brains to do more publicity, especially in the area of online marketing. But it was quite rare for The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer to invest so much money in such a short period of time and create such a big impact. It inevitably caused a great impact in the industry. Some people were dumbfounded, this was not the right style. For a long time, Chinfei Media, represented by Lu Chen, didn't invest much in marketing. Whether it was a record or a TV series, they often used their own influence to promote. The most typical example would be the online platform. Usually, when he and Chinfei Air showed their love, there would be hundreds of thousands or even millions of shares. The TV series didn't need to be promoted at all. Countless fans were eagerly looking forward to it. They didn't have to pay for it, but the media was also chasing after it, and the ratings kept rising. It couldn't be helped, because Lu Chen was so popular. He posted a blog on Wave's blog, and the publicity effect was worth millions of marketing investment. That was something that others couldn't be envious of. The Smiling, Proud Wanderer undoubtedly adopted the same publicity strategy at the beginning. Lu Chen wrote a love poem to Chinfei, and it was unknown how many people's eyes were attracted to it. As for the investment, it was almost equal to nothing. However, what people didn't expect was that Chinfei Media would make a huge investment in promoting The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer, which was only half a month away from the screening of The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer. The entertainment circle was big, but it was also small. The news in the entertainment circle always spread fast. Although Chinfei Media did not disclose how much they had spent on the promotion of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, people in the industry quickly deduced that Chinfei Media had spent at least 30 million yuan, and the total budget was estimated to be double. This kind of inference was quite accurate and shocked many people. Some people guessed that Chinfei Media, or more accurately, Lu Chen, must have realized the huge pressure of the box office of The Smiling, the Proud Martial World, so they promoted it at all costs, trying to reverse the embarrassing situation faced by the current martial arts movies. At the opening ceremony of The Smiling, Proud Martial Artist, Lu Chen had predicted a box office of 1 billion to 1.5 billion. If he couldn't even achieve half of it, he would undoubtedly lose face. Some were surprised, some were curious, and some were gloating, thinking that Lu Chen had finally run out of tricks. The more advertisements were invested in the smiling, the proud wanderer, the fiercer the publicity was. Many people in the industry were more pessimistic about the box office of the movie. They even thought that Chinfei Media might not be able to recover the cost after adding a huge amount of marketing expenses. Look at you, you were so confident before. In the back seat of the Mercedes-Benz, Chinfei showed his phone to Lu Chen and said gloatingly, "Now someone has something on you, right?" Lu Chen took a look and found that the screen showed a blog post from a verified self-media person on Wave's blog. He said that the smiling, the proud martial world's box office was between 500 million to 700 million yuan, or even lower. In order to prove his point, this self-media person also listed a lot of data, including the box office of Young Man in Jianghu and other martial arts movies, and even the information from a research company. The production cost of the smiling, the proud martial world and the publicity cost were calculated according to the investment of 200 million yuan. The box office needed to reach more than 400 million yuan to break even. And that didn't include the salary of Lu Chen and Chinfei, it would be 500 million yuan. Missing the golden summer period and facing the dilemma of the theme, it was undoubtedly extremely difficult for the smiling, the proud martial world to create a new miracle in the box office. The conclusion of this self-media person was approved and supported by many people. It was reposted and liked by tens of thousands of people. They also thought that movies with the theme of martial arts were destined to be a failure of domestic movies. The smiling, the proud martial world would follow the footsteps of Young Man in Jianghu, and it would be extremely lucky to break even in the end. Lu Chen didn't care about the negative comments on the blog at all. Because the final decision of the box office was not made by the big and small versus in the industry, but by the hundreds of millions of audience. He was confident in his own work, so why should he be afraid of others' sarcasm? Since he started his career, there were always slander and slander behind the flowers and praises. He didn't know how many people were waiting for him to be unlucky. Lu Chen swiped the screen with his finger, looking through the blog posts related to the smiling, the proud martial world. In fact, in addition to these negative comments, there were also many supporters of Lu Chen in Wave's blog, especially for the posters, stills and trailers released by the official V of the smiling, the proud martial world. Some film critics thought that the smiling, the proud martial world was not the same as Young Man in Jianghu. In addition to the excellent character designs, several edited fighting scenes were also very wonderful, with distinct and unique characteristics. Especially the fighting scene in the rain in the second trailer, there were no fancy special effects, no exaggerated performance, and every move was full of cruel beauty of violence. It was different from Hollywood action blockbusters, and also different from the popular IP adaptations of domestic movies. They believed that as long as the film maintained the same standard, it would definitely bring unexpected surprises to the audience. As a person who was good at creating miracles, this film critic believed that Lu Chen would not let everyone down. His point of view was also supported by many people, especially Lu Chen's fans. But there were also people who argued that he was being paid by Chinfei Media to speak. But Lu Chen could guarantee that so far, Chinfei Media had never spent money on a film critic, including this time when the publicity of the smiling, the proud martial world was so big, but there was no budget arrangement in this area. Of course, even if Chinfei Media came out to refute, it would not be able to convince everyone. So in the end, the truth had to speak, and the truth was the box office. In 3 days, the smiling, the proud martial world would be released in all the major cinemas in the country. Lu Chen gave the phone back to Chinfei, and his mind couldn't help but drift to the future. Chapter 838. Beijing New Era Art Park, Chinfei Media Headquarters. September 29th was Saturday. Since it was October 1st, the National Day, 2 days later, this year's National Day holiday began today. Including next week, there would be a total of 9 days of holiday time. Most enterprises had already entered the holiday mode of the Golden Week. However, few employees of Chinfei Media had a holiday. In fact, Most of them couldn't go sightseeing or sleep at home during the holiday. On the contrary, they had to work overtime. It wasn't because the boss exploited the employees inhumanely. In fact, the treatment of the employees of Chinfei Media was well known in the industry. All the employees who worked overtime would get multiple times the salary and holiday compensation. The reason for this situation was that the most important movie for Chinfei Media, The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, would be officially released on October 1st, and the pre-sale of the movie tickets had started as early as 4 days ago. At the same time, the promotional activities of major media had also reached a peak. Tens of millions of yuan had been spent. It could be said that the success or failure of the movie depended on this golden week. All kinds of information were summarized from different channels. The pre-sale results were gradually clear. The latest data was printed on a thin piece of A4 paper and sent to the general manager's office. Lu Qin, Lu Shi, and Chen Fei were all in the office. Lu Shi picked up the heavy paper, spent a few seconds to read it, and then handed it to Lu Qin. There was no expression on his sister's face. Lu Qin took it, and lines of data immediately came into view. As of 3:00 p.m. on the 29th, the cumulative pre-sale box office of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, in Beijing, 3572570, Shanghai, 2980500, Shenzhen, 2102570, the national cumulative pre-sale box office, 4127560. The pre-sale in 5.5 days was more than 40 million yuan. Plus the rest of the day and tomorrow, it was basically impossible for the pre-sale box office to exceed 50 million yuan. For many domestic movies, such a pre-sale result was completely worthy of a celebration party, but for The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, it really wasn't so good. Under normal circumstances, the ticket sales of movies now accounted for 10% to 15% of the total box office. Unless the movie's reputation was bad or it became very popular, there were very few exceptions. According to this ratio, the total box office of The Smiling, Proud Martial World would not exceed 500 million yuan. It would be very difficult for it to recover its cost. Moreover, such a pre-sale result was produced under the circumstance that tens of millions of yuan had been invested in promotion. Moreover, according to the release schedule, there was no way to compare the National Day period with the Summer and New Year period. Although there were fewer competitors, the box office expectations were bound to be discounted. Such a start was undoubtedly quite unfavorable. After reading the statistics, Chen Fei also fell silent. The atmosphere in the office was very heavy. After a while, Lu Shi said, "We have also invested 30 million yuan in the surrounding area." There was a hint of bitterness in his sister's voice. Because of the success of Lu Chen's first movie, A Chinese Ghost Story, in terms of box office and peripheral products, Chen Fei Media invested more in The Smiling, Proud Martial World. Big variety and quantity of the customized peripheral products had already exceeded that of A Chinese Ghost Story. Most of them had already been sent to cinemas all over the country. The higher the box office, the more popular the peripheral products were. This was an unshakable iron law, and vice versa. Now the pre-sale of The Smiling, Proud Martial World was not good, and the future box office was covered with a shadow. Under such circumstances, the future of the peripheral products that had already been piled up in cinemas and stores was undoubtedly uncertain. "It's all because of those rats," Chen Fei slammed the paper in his hand on the table and said angrily, "That's too hateful." The rats *T that Chen Fei said was naturally the few movies that followed the trend in the summer. If they didn't ruin the reputation of the martial arts movie, with the popularity of the IP of The Smiling, Proud Martial World, the cast of stars, and the high investment in the promotion, the pre-sale of the movie would have reached 50 million yuan no matter what. It was definitely not appropriate to say that they were stupid teammates, and it was not appropriate to say that they were stupid opponents. They could only be described as rats *T. They were not good people, and they were big and disgusting to others. Different from A Chinese Ghost Story, Chen Fei had a lot of feelings for The Smiling, Proud Martial World. She played the big negative boss in the former, and the latter was the heroine. It was the first blockbuster that she and Lu Chen acted as the heroine and heroine. It was very meaningful. Although the poor box office of The Smiling, Proud Martial World would not affect the operation of Chen Fei Media, Chen Fei was still disgusted because she was very clear that Lu Chen had put in a lot of effort for this martial arts movie. If his efforts were wasted because of others' stupidity, it would be too unfair. Actually, the situation, Lu Chen shook his head and said, it's not as serious as you think. It's not that we don't have a chance. It should be said that he made a mistake on the project of The Smiling, Proud Martial World. The mistake was that he did not expect the possible unfavorable situation, and delayed the screening time of The Smiling, Proud Martial World from the summer to the National Day. As a result, it caused a series of passive situations. But for Lu Chen, it was not unacceptable to pay such a price. Because the reason why he did not rush the screening time was to ensure the quality of the movie, to ensure that the first part of The Smiling, Proud Martial World could achieve a perfect start. This perfect not only referred to the box office, but also the audience's reputation. Therefore, the current pre-sale results of the box office did not mean anything. The key was the response and evaluation after the screening. This was the reason why Lu Chen could still maintain his confidence. At this moment, it was too early to say whether it would succeed or fail. Seeing Lu Chen's calmness, Lu Shi was a little bit anxious, so we all worried about you for nothing. If the box office is really not good, you will be the one who will lose face, as you said you could get more than 1 billion yuan in the box office. Lu Chen said with a smile, I am thick-skinned, it doesn't matter. Seeing his shameless look, Chen Fei also couldn't help laughing, and his gloomy mood dissipated a lot. Lu Chen seized the opportunity and said, okay, we don't need to worry about the pre-sale anymore. Let's go now. Tonight, Chen Fei Media would hold the premiere of The Smiling, Proud Martial World at Beijing Poly Grand Theater. People from all walks of life were invited to attend. As the host, they definitely had to arrive in advance. This premiere was not too grand, but the invitation letters had already been sent out. Most of the guests who received the invitation had clearly indicated that they would come, so it also played a role in promoting The Smiling, Proud Martial World. But apart from all the promotions and activities, the final result of the box office was still the movie itself. Chapter 839. In the capital, Poly Theater. In the past 10 years, because of the rapid development of the film market, cinemas had sprung up in the capital. The number of cinemas had increased several times, and the number of screens had increased more than 10 times. But in the eyes of the old people in the capital, Poly Theater was undoubtedly one of the best cinemas in their hearts. This theater with a history of 60 years was located in the bustling area of the center of the capital. It originally served as a cinema, a theater, and a conference hall. After several renovations, its scale and facilities were no longer the same as before. Because of its history, location, fame, and versatility, many movies, including domestic and foreign blockbusters, chose to have their premieres in Poly Theater. At 7:30 on Saturday, September 29, the premiere of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer was also held in Poly Theater. The main hall of Poly Theater could accommodate 500 people. Chen Fei Media didn't make a big promotion for the premiere, so it was quite low-key. The invited guests were mainly colleagues of Chen Fei Media, friends of Lu Chen and Chen Fei, in the circle, media representatives, filmmakers, and so on. Although there were only 10 media outlets that had been officially invited, a large number of uninvited media outlets had already arrived before the premiere began. They occupied favorable positions in the Poly Grand Theater and set up their cameras and cannons. Lu Chen, who came out to greet the guests in person, was surrounded by people. If it weren't for the security, he would have been drowned by the reporters. Lu Chen. Mr. Lu Chen, I am a reporter from New Film Network, may I ask, I heard that the pre-sale of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer was only about 40 million. Is it true? Lu Chen, the theme of martial arts has been regarded as the poison of the box office. So, do you still stick to the original prediction of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer? Lu Chen, Dozens of reporters were noisily talking at once, itching to put the microphone in Lu Chen's mouth, and the questions they asked were not all friendly and harmonious, but aggressive questions. Seeing this, Lu Chen knew that if he didn't say anything, it would be difficult to deal with them. He thought for a while and raised his hand to signal the reporters to be quiet. These reporters were all old foxes. At a glance, they knew that Lu Chen had something to say. They immediately shut their mouths, but desperately stretched out their microphones to Lu Chen, so that their logo on the microphone appeared in the most conspicuous position of the camera. Lu Chen had seen a lot of reporters these years, so he had rich experience in dealing with them. He pointed to one of them. The reporter asked excitedly, "Hello, Lu Chen. I am a reporter from Entertainment Every Day. What is the current pre-sale of The Smiling, can you tell me?" "What?" Lu Chen answered frankly, "More than 40 million. Now, Lu Chen said calmly. The pre-sale of the box office was the same as the box office data. Because there were public channels to check, there was no need to hide it. In fact, the reporter of Entertainment Every Day already knew the relevant data, but he just took it as a topic." Hearing Lu Chen's answer, he immediately asked, "The pre-sale of less than 50 million yuan means that it's difficult for the total box office to exceed 500 million yuan. Can it be said that your prediction at the opening ceremony was wrong?" Reporters liked controversial topics the most. It was not a big deal for them to humiliate Lu Chen in public like this. It was already a euphemism. Lu Chen was too famous. Since his debut, everything had been smooth. He had achieved great success in all aspects. He had never failed. For the reporters, reporting Lu Chen's success was not fresh at all. Only Lu Chen's failure could make them excited. If they could stimulate Lu Chen to say something out of shame, it would be perfect. However, this trick did not work on Lu Chen. He smiled and said, "If you say that my previous prediction was wrong, then I still insist on it." "Insist on being wrong?" The reporter's jaw almost dropped. "You still insist that The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer can get 1 to 1.5 billion at the National Day box office?" Lu Chen shook his head, "Of course not. My prediction is the total box office." Originally, the Entertainment Every Day reporter had already made a detailed draft and prepared a lot of topics, but he didn't expect Lu Chen to be so stubborn and speak so resolutely, which made him unable to keep up with the rest of the words. Since he could not keep up, someone else asked, "Lu Chen, then why do you think The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer can create a miracle and change the audience's impression of martial arts movies?" Lu Chen smiled and said, "Of course it's because of the efforts of all the cast and crew of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer. I believe this movie can bring a completely different experience to the audience. In fact, after saying so much, it's more appropriate for the audience to verify it themselves." This was not right. The reporters around Lu Chen did not get any exciting remarks from Lu Chen. Instead, they felt like they were led by him. They did not come here to help promote The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer. However, Lu Chen did not give them any chance. He raised his wrist and looked at his watch and said, "It's almost time. I have to go now. Thank you, everyone. Talk next time." As he spoke, he turned around and walked into the theater, ignoring the shouts of the dumbfounded reporters behind him. Lu Chen was very clear that no matter how much he said, it would not change people's minds. Only hard facts could destroy all doubts. So there was no need to waste time now. At this moment, many guests who came to attend the premiere were gathered in the lobby of the theater. Drinks and refreshments were also prepared to serve the guests. Many people were chatting in groups of 2 or 3. Chen Fei walked over with Tian Tian. Tian Tian had flown to the capital yesterday to attend the premiere. She was staying at their home. Lu Shi also followed them and said, "Almost everyone is here. We can start." Lu Chen nodded and said, "Then let's start. Let's go in together." It was finally going to start. He took a deep breath, and his heart couldn't help but feel a trace of apprehension and confusion. He hadn't felt this way for a long time. Maybe it was because he was under a lot of pressure recently. Maybe it was because this movie carried too much expectation. It was going to be tested by the market soon, just like a student entering the college entrance examination. At this time, Chen Fei held his arm. Lu Chen turned around and saw Chen Fei's bright and beautiful eyes shining. It was trust, support and encouragement. Chapter 840. What could they do in 90 minutes? They could attend 2 classes, take a nap, play a ball game with their friends, or enjoy a sweet and romantic dinner with their girlfriends. They could watch a movie in 90 minutes. In the number 1 hall of the Poly Grand Theater, all 500 seats were occupied. When the lights and shadows of swords gradually faded away, the credits appeared on the huge screen. When the theme song of The Ocean's Roar sounded again, the lights in the hall slowly lit up, bringing everyone back to reality from the illusory world. Then there was applause. Clap. 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 At first, it was 1 or 2 claps, with some hesitation. But after a few seconds, the applause suddenly became more and more intense, and more orderly. The guests who attended the premiere included industry colleagues who had good cooperation with Chenfei Media, friends of Lu Chen and Chen Fei in the circle, and representatives of the media and film critics. No matter what the level of the movie was, the former would usually applaud out of politeness after watching the movie, but the latter might not, unless the movie was really recognized by them. Especially the film critics, unless they were specially hired with money, it was very difficult to impress them. These famous professional or semi-professional film critics with many fans on Waves were often very picky about the story, character settings, costumes, special effects, dubbing and music of the movie. They were all within the scope of their judgment. Their standards might be different, but they were definitely much higher than the average audience. The same was true for the media and reporters. It was hard to please everyone, and they were no doubt the same. Now, whether it was the colleagues in the industry, friends in the circle, or the picky media and film critics, everyone applauded and stood up. No one talked about it. The only thing that echoed in the theater was the endless applause. Until Lu Chen led all the main crew to the stage. Chen Guizhi was supposed to lead the crew to the stage for the premiere of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer. Unfortunately, he was attending a film festival in Europe as a judge, so he didn't make it. In addition, Lu Gangsheng and Tan Hong didn't come either. The former had another job, and the latter returned to his homebody life after making a guest appearance in The Smiling, Proud Wanderer. He didn't want to stand under the spotlight anymore. But Lu Chen and Chen Fei were enough, especially Lu Chen. He was not only the leading actor of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, but also the action director, scriptwriter, arranger and so on. Undoubtedly, he was the real soul of this movie. Everyone's eyes were focused on him, and the applause became even louder. The applause was recognition, praise, respect, and gratitude at the same time. Thank you, Lu Chen, and thank you to the crew of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, for giving us such a good movie. Their applause was warm and sincere. Lu Chen and Chen Fei smiled at each other, while the other main actors and main crew either had red eyes or tears in their eyes. They were so excited that they couldn't control themselves. It was really not easy. It had been a year since The Smiling, Proud Wanderer was set up to today's premiere. The crew had traveled all over the country to shoot and work overtime to meet the schedule. It could be said that they had put in a lot of effort. However, in the industry and on the internet, there were many negative comments about this movie, which hadn't been officially released yet. They thought that The Smiling, Proud Wanderer would be the first failure of Chen Fei Media, and they wouldn't even be able to recoup their cost. Seeing these comments, how could the crew be happy? Especially the actors who had suffered a lot in order to shoot a good action scene, they had been holding back their anger. Now their hard work had finally been justified. Although the applause now couldn't represent the audience, nor could it determine the box office, at least it made them feel that their hard work wasn't in vain. Thank you, Lu Chen cupped his hands and saluted, thank you for your support. The applause that lasted for 2 minutes finally subsided, and the theater was soon quiet again. Lu Chen held the microphone and said, it's a pity that the director of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, director Chen Guizhi, is far away in Spain, so he couldn't attend today's premiere. But I will definitely pass everyone's applause to director Chen. As soon as he finished speaking, the applause came again. Lu Chen smiled and said, "It's so warm. I feel that director Chen can hear it even in Europe." There was laughter in the applause. Lu Chen continued, "The Smiling, Proud Wanderer is the second movie I've been involved in, and it's also the first installment of Chen Fei Media's series of martial arts movies. I can honestly say that I and all the staff of Chen Fei Media have high hopes for The Smiling, Proud Wanderer. I hope it can be loved by the audience, and even go global." He didn't hide his ambition at all. If it was before the movie, most people would only politely greet him, or even laugh at him in their hearts. But after watching the entire movie, many people changed their minds. They were even shocked. It was as if they had suddenly discovered a new world with too many possibilities. There were many real professionals in the theater. According to their standards, The Smiling, Proud Wanderer would definitely recover its cost, and it was normal for it to make a huge profit from the box office. It was just that the final box office was still unknown. They had all watched Young Jianghu and the new 7 Heroes and 5 Gallants before, and it was because of the comparison that they understood the difference between The Smiling, Proud Wanderer and those films that followed the trend. This difference in essence would undoubtedly be the potential for The Smiling, Proud Wanderer to achieve success. Meng Xiaotang, who was sitting on the right side of the third row in the theater, was undoubtedly such a professional. He looked at Lu Chen, who was standing on the stage, and he was still recalling the wonderful scenes in the movie. At the same time, he was casually scribbling on the small notebook in his hand, leaving some meaningless lines. Different from most media reporters and film critics, Meng Xiaotang didn't like to use a tablet or a mobile phone to record what he saw. He preferred to write his own thoughts on paper, because the feeling of the pen tip on the paper was irreplaceable by any technology. From this point of view, Meng Xiaotang was a very emotional freelance writer. His film reviews were always full of emotional words. Perhaps it was a little bold and imaginative, but it was different from those of his peers who wrote in a conventional way. The feeling that The Smiling, Proud Wanderer brought him was completely different from that of Young Jianghu. Last time when he attended the premiere of Young Jianghu, Meng Xiaotang couldn't write anything, because he felt terrible. But now, he had too many thoughts, and he didn't know how to express them. Chapter 841. In the lobby of Poly Grand Theater. The main hall, which originally had multiple functions such as ticket sales, food and beverage sales, and audience rest area, was temporarily transformed into a banquet hall tonight. When the guests came out of the movie hall, a long table had been set under the chandelier in the center, and a tall champagne tower was shining under the bright lights. The champagne tower, flowers, and delicious Western desserts were all prepared when the movie was playing, which undoubtedly gave the guests a big surprise and a small surprise. Chen Fei Media made such a gesture. It was called a premiere, but in fact, it was almost like a celebration party. Weren't they afraid of becoming a joke in the industry before The Smiling, the Proud martial artist was officially released? Obviously, Lu Chen was not so stupid that he didn't know what to do. The only explanation was that he had absolute confidence in the movie and believed that The Smiling, the Proud martial artist would definitely be a success. Before the premiere, most people were skeptical or pessimistic about it, but now, in the cheers and laughter, glasses of champagne were sent to the guests by the specially hired waiters from the hotel. The atmosphere was harmonious and warm. Many guests who had planned to leave stayed and used it as a place to socialize. Cheers! Lu Chen and Chen Fei accepted the congratulations and compliments of the guests together, and they frequently toasted. Chen Fei was a light drinker, and she was a little drunk after only 1 glass of champagne. Her pretty face was faintly flushed, which made her look even more beautiful. She was wearing a tight white evening dress with narrow shoulders. Her black hair was tied up, and her swan-like neck was exposed. Her delicate and beautiful face and outstanding temperament undoubtedly made her one of the focuses of the audience. And Lu Chen, who was beside her, was not inferior. A well-tailored suit showed off his strong figure, and his handsome face was glowing. He had sharp eyebrows and bright eyes, and there was a touch of smile on his lips. Compared with the carefree and unrestrained Ling Huchong in The Smiling, the proud martial artist, people unconsciously felt that they had traveled through time, reality, and illusion. So wonderful, Lin Jijie held a glass of champagne and said, when it's officially released in 2 days, I'll bring my family to the cinema to support it. The deputy general manager and music director of Flying Stone Records is an old friend of Lu Chen. He said half jokingly and half seriously, I should have insisted on letting Flying Stone participate in the investment. Now I feel like I've lost 100 million yuan. The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer, was the beginning of Lu Chen's wuxia IP plan, and it was the cornerstone of Qinfei Media for the next 10 years. Therefore, he didn't bring in many investors to share the risk, but only cooperated with several long-term partners. Flying Stone Records was one of the collaborators. The original soundtrack album of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer was produced and distributed by Flying Stone Records. At that time, Flying Stone Records intended to get involved, but was declined by Qinfei Media. However, because of the good relationship between the two sides, many artists under Flying Stone Records have participated in the roles in The Smiling, Proud Wanderer. Mu Xiaochu was also an important supporting actress, and her role as Yi Lin was outstanding. It could be foreseen that once The Smiling, Proud Wanderer is officially released, Mu Xiaochu's popularity will reach a new level. Together with several other artists, the benefits to Flying Stone Records will not be small. But people are greedy, and Lin Jijie was no exception. At the beginning, several martial arts films in the summer period failed miserably at the box office. Some of the senior executives of Flying Stone Records were quite glad that they didn't step into this big pit. Now that he thought about it, he felt it was ridiculous. Lu Chen said with a smile, Thank you, Brother Jijie. We will have many opportunities for cooperation in the future. Lin Jijie pointed to him and said, That's what you said. I'll remember it. Fei, can testify. You can't go back on your word. In the past few years, through the cooperation with Lu Chen, Flying Stone Records has made a lot of money, especially its MSN Women's Group, which has firmly occupied the first throne in China and become the company's cash cow. But with the continuous growth of Qinfei Media, it was inevitable that people would worry about how long the cooperation between the two sides would last. What Lu Chen had just said undoubtedly gave Lin Jijie a reassuring pill. Qinfei pursed his lips and said with a smile, Well, I'll remember it for Brother Jijie. Lin Jijie laughed and turned to socialize with others with satisfaction, giving the opportunity to others. As soon as Lin Jijie's front foot left, someone immediately came to Lu Chen's front foot. This was Zhang Yaocheng, the deputy general manager and editor-in-chief of Shanghai Publishing House, who also had a good relationship with Lu Chen. Shanghai Publishing House was one of the top 10 private publishing houses in China, with a strong scale and strength. When Lu Chen published the novel, Autumn in My Heart, the publishing house won the copyright at a high price of 15% plus 500,000 yuan. At the beginning, it was Zhang Yaocheng who personally made the decision, offered such a high royalty, and single-handedly facilitated the contract. With Autumn in My Heart as the beginning, the novel version of Lu Chen's, Full of Romance, was also cooperated with Shanghai Publishing House. The total sales of Lu Chen's two novels added up to nearly 10 million. As a film and TV adaptation, it crushed a large number of best-selling novels. Putting aside the influence of the work itself, Shanghai Publishing House also contributed a lot. In the cooperation list of Lu Chen's studio, Shanghai Publishing House belonged to the first order. Later, You from the Star, and now, The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, and The Legend of the Condor Heroes, were all published and distributed by Shanghai Publishing House. Relying on these best-selling novels, Shanghai Publishing House not only made huge profits, but also expanded its influence in the industry, and its development was thriving. At tonight's premiere, Zhang Yaocheng was also one of the special guests. However, compared to the film itself, he was more concerned about the novel. Teacher Lu, when will Teacher Yi Jin Gu's new work come out? As the founder of the new school of wuxia novels, the pen name Yi Jin Gu was like a well-known golden signboard in the literary circle. The two long-length wuxia novels, The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, and The Legend of the Condor Heroes, had one great success. Putting aside The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, which had been published for nearly 2 years, The Legend of the Condor Heroes, which was newly launched by Shanghai Publishing House, was sold out. It took 2 consecutive additional printing to meet the market demand. The ambitious Shanghai Publishing House was not satisfied because of this. They hoped that Yi Jin-gu could strike while the iron was hot and write more and better works, so that the wuxia craze could continue. However, Yi Jin-gu was very mysterious. He had never appeared in public and never participated in signing activities. All the copyrights were bought out to Qinfei Media. Zhang Yaoqing had wanted to meet him in person several times, but he had not been able to do so. Therefore, he could only settle for the next best thing, which was to urge the other party through his relationship with Lu Qin. The chief editor of Shanghai Publishing House did not know that the author was already standing in front of him. Chapter 842. Among the people present, only Qin Fei, and Lu Shi knew that Yi Jin-gu was actually Lu Chen's sock puppet. Although they didn't understand the reason why Lu Qin hid himself, it stood to reason that this was a good thing to add a halo to himself. But since Lu Qin was determined to do this, the 2 closest people to Lu Qin naturally supported him unconditionally. Hearing Zhang Yaoqing's expectant inquiry, Qin Fei, couldn't help but secretly roll his eyes at Lu Qin. Lu Qin noticed Qin Fei's eyes. He smiled and said, "President Zhang, I don't know, but you can rest assured that his new book will still cooperate with Shanghai Publishing House." Yi Jin-gu was him, and this guarantee was, of course, genuine. Zhang Yaoqing very much wanted to talk to the author himself. After all, Yi Jin-gu was now a cash cow of Shanghai Publishing House. If it was poached by others, then he, the deputy general manager and editor-in-chief, would probably have to resign. Otherwise, it would be difficult to atone for his crime. Originally, Zhang Yaoqing was not particularly nervous, but after watching the first movie of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, he was keenly aware that this martial arts movie was likely to have a sensational impact, and the result would inevitably have a huge impetus to the popularity of martial arts novels. It was inevitable that the value of Yi Jin-gu would increase greatly, and it would inevitably be coveted by competitors. If he didn't even have this vigilance, how could Zhang Yaoqing become the head of Shanghai Publishing House from an ordinary salesman? Now that he had received a personal guarantee from Lu Qin, although he couldn't say that he was completely relieved, he finally breathed a sigh of relief. Following Lin Jijie in front of him, Zhang Yaoqing was also satisfied when he left. Then Beijing Television, Zhidong Satellite TV, QQ, SYG, and other high-level guests invited to the ceremony expressed their congratulations to Lu Qin. Time passed quickly as they toasted each other. The guests began to leave, and Lu Qin, Qin Fei, and Lu Shi, as the hosts, saw them off one by one. "Hello, Lu Qin." Lu Qin had just seen off the manager in charge of QQ Video, and a middle-aged man greeted him politely. Lu Qin smiled and shook hands with him. Hello, he had laughed too much tonight, and his face was almost stiff. But that was how it was in the social arena. As for the man in front of him, Lu Qin did not recognize him at all. He was merely entertaining him out of courtesy. The middle-aged man introduced himself. "My name is Meng Xiaotang." Lu Qin immediately reacted and quickly said, "So it's Teacher Meng. Nice to meet you." He had a good memory. He had seen the guest list for tonight's premiere. Although he hadn't met many of them before, he had memorized their basic information. Meng Xiaotang was a very famous freelance writer. The ID of his Waves blog was Teacher Meng. He had written many film reviews and had over 1 million fans. It must be pointed out that Meng Xiaotang was really a teacher, but he resigned a few years ago. Lu Qin still remembered that he had read several of his articles, which were very well written. Meng Xiaotang said with a smile, "You're welcome. It's my honor to be invited by Qinfei Media and meet you here. The Smiling, Proud Wanderer was better than I thought. Tonight's trip was really worthwhile." Lu Qin thanked him. "Thank you." Meng Xiaotang said very earnestly, after watching this movie, I have a lot of ideas. I'm going to write a film review when I go back tonight. I know your time is very precious, but I really hope to have a detailed chat with you if I have the opportunity. Let's talk about martial arts movies. I don't know if this wish of mine can be realized. Of course, that's no problem. Lu Chen was ready to agree immediately, but a new idea quickly emerged in his mind. Teacher Meng, if I want to put this conversation on TV, I wonder if you would be willing. Put it on TV. Meng Xiaotang was suddenly stunned, but he was also considered half an insider. In the blink of an eye, he understood Lu Chen's idea. No one's success was by luck. Meng Xiaotang, who understood, admired Lu Chen greatly. This was obviously an idea that came up with on the spur of the moment. It was not the result of planning, but it was a perfect balance of time and interests. The TV station would definitely welcome this talk show. Lu Chen's influence was right there. Moreover, it was a movie that had just been released, so the ratings must be good. Lu Chen could take this opportunity to promote his own movie. Not only did he not need to spend a penny, he might even get an appearance fee. As for himself, although Meng Xiaotang was a very romantic freelance writer, he was not a saint who did not care about worldly affairs. He also needed to make money to support his family, and he also hoped to get more people's attention and recognition. Lu Chen's proposal was very beneficial to him. If he did not agree, it would be like being kicked in the head by a donkey. Out of a trace of the reserved nature of a scholar, he thought for a moment, then nodded hard and said, "I'm very willing, thank you." Lu Chen said with a smile, "That's good. I'll arrange the time here. I'll ask someone from the company to contact you." After leaving his contact information, Meng Xiaotang said goodbye to Lu Chen. He was in a hurry to go back and write a film review article. Lu Chen watched the other person's figure disappear into the elevator, deep in thought. What's wrong? Chen Fei walked over and looked curiously at the elevator. Who was that just now? Meng Xiaotang, Teacher Meng. Lu Chen briefly explained the other person's identity to her and also told her his plans. Chen Fei pursed her lips and smiled. You have a lot of wicked ideas. She asked again, then which TV station are you going to let do this show? Beijing TV or Zhejiang TV? Lu Chen pretended to be dissatisfied. Can't it be Central TV? Chen Fei chuckled. Do you think Central TV is owned by your family? Lu Chen touched his chin. That makes sense, although the two were joking, it was really practical. Because through the talent show, The Eight Storms Meet in Beijing, Chen Fei Media, or rather, Lu Chen, had established a good cooperative relationship with Central TV. As long as he was willing to use his connections, Central TV department too would not have too big of an obstacle. But this matter was not important. For Lu Chen, the most important thing was the official screening of The Sword of Mount Hua on National Day. Although the premiere was very well received, the final fate of a movie, which was decided by hundreds of millions of ordinary people, was the box office result. If the box office of The Smiling, Proud, and Proud was not good, what was the point of talking to Meng Xiaotang on TV? The premiere was over, but the journey of The Smiling, Proud, and Proud had just begun. The day after tomorrow was October 1st. Chapter 843. On September 29th, The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer had its premiere at the Poly Grand Theater in Beijing. That night, many domestic mainstream media and many famous people in the industry published their reviews on their websites and blogs. All of them were full of praises. Meng Xiaotang, whose ID was Teacher Meng, on Wave's blog, published his review at midnight. Tonight, I experienced an adult fairy tale. This was the title of the blog post. The freelance writer, who had millions of fans, wrote in the post. A history that is divorced from reality. The background of the film is completely imaginary. In this imaginary world, there are high and mighty sects, magical martial arts, exciting swords, heroic heroes who sing sorrowful songs, ambitious schemers, and devastatingly beautiful women. This movie contains thrilling fights, strange and unpredictable conspiracies, interesting romances, and rich philosophies. The one who leaves the deepest impression on the audience is undoubtedly the protagonist, Ling Huchong. He cares very little about fame and fortune, and he is not affected by worldly thoughts. He is free and unrestrained, and he is hot-blooded and heroic. Although he has experienced hardships, he is indomitable. I have never thought that a real martial arts movie would be like this. I have seen a few so-called martial arts movies before, and with all due respect, they are just a bunch of garbage. I think a real martial arts movie should be like this. It is a fairy tale that belongs to us adults. Meng Xiaotong's film review blog post was more than 2,000 words long. Unlike his usual film reviews, this blog post was obviously written in a hurry. Therefore, there was no elaborate embellishment in the writing style, but the true feelings between the lines were exactly his unique style. Those who were familiar with Teacher Meng knew that although he was over 40 years old, he had always been a romantic person. His reviews were casual and he wrote whatever he wanted. He laughed and scolded freely, and he never betrayed his moral integrity. Meng Xiaotong's praise for The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer exceeded his previous highest evaluation for domestic movies, so many fans left questions in the comment section. Teacher Meng, did you receive money? It was actually very normal to have such doubts. Nowadays, it was common for domestic blockbusters to hold a premiere, inviting a large number of media and people in the circle to come and support them. Then, there would be a flood of good reviews. As the saying goes, people support people in the sedan chair, so everyone was used to it. Some time ago, The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer was very popular, so it was not surprising that people spent money to buy good reviews on the night before it was released. Some people ridiculed Meng Xiaotong on the blog, saying that he finally sold his moral integrity for a good price. In the face of such vicious ridicule, Meng Xiaotong didn't get angry to defend himself. He just showed 3 screenshots of online tickets on his blog, saying that after The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer was officially released, he would take his family to the cinema to support it. Some people were surprised, some people questioned, some people ridiculed, and some people took the opportunity to attack. But for the vast number of Lu Chen's fans, these praises and comments undoubtedly gave them a shot of adrenaline, and the atmosphere in related posts, forums, and QQ groups became more enthusiastic. On the evening of the 30th, the online pre-sale of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer ended, and the box office sales reached 49.7 million, only 300,000 away from breaking the 50 million mark. On October 1st, The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer was released in more than 3,000 cinemas in China, and the screening rate was 32.50%. In China, the National Day screening period was ranked third after the Summer and New Year's screening period, so The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer couldn't outshine others, and it also had to face competition from many competitors. And among the movies released at the same time, the biggest threat to The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer was undoubtedly the action blockbuster Ace Agent, produced by Superstar Pictures, which was also released on October 1st, and the screening rate was 43.77%, firmly crushing The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer. Superstar Pictures was a famous film company in Hollywood, with a long history and strong strength. It was also one of the first American film companies to enter the domestic market. Every year, there would be 2 or 3 blockbusters introduced into the domestic market, and they earned a lot of box office. Ace Agent had an investment of $170 million, and the cast was strong. The male and female lead had considerable appeal in the domestic market, and the intensity of the publicity was not weak at all. So it was natural that Ace Agent had more screening than The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer. In fact, the screening rate of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer was more than 30%, and it was also the result of Chen Fei Media's countless efforts. Because the box office of the martial arts films in the summer period failed badly, the cinema chain still had lingering fears. That was because Lu Chen, Chen Fei, and Lu Gongsheng's status were high enough, and coupled with the overwhelming publicity some time ago, under normal circumstances, it wouldn't be strange to give 10% screening. And whether or not they could keep this screening rate depended on the performance of the film. Once the audience's reputation was not good, then the cinema chain would quickly adjust, and there was no mercy to speak of. In front of the benefits of the box office, the cinema chain was very realistic. Whichever film had more people watching it, they would give it more screening. Other than The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, and Ace Agent, there was also a domestic comedy film, a domestic urban romance film, and a Xiangjiang police and gangster film that took up the rest of the share. Compared to The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, and Ace Agent, these three films didn't have a large cast, investment, or publicity. If there were no accidents, they wouldn't be a big threat. The real competition still depended on The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, and Ace Agent. Aren't you worried at all? Beijing, Qinfei Media's headquarters, in the general manager's office, Lu Shi looked at Lu Chen, who was playing Plants vs. Zombies on his tablet, and complained, "A lot of people are waiting to see you make a fool of yourself." The battle of the box office had already begun, and Lu Shi was in the headquarters, constantly paying attention to the screening of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer. She had been feeling uneasy, but in the end, Lu Chen was just leisurely playing a game at this time. After setting up a new group of pea shooters and eliminating the last wave of zombies, Lu Chen put down the tablet in his hand, smiled and said, "There's nothing to worry about, we've done what we should and could do, now it's up to the audience to decide. As for others wanting to see us make a fool of ourselves, let them watch, let's see who can laugh in the end." Lu Shi was convinced. "You're really ambitious." Lu Chen smiled and didn't say anything. Coming this far, he had already obtained countless things that he had dreamed of. Even if he failed, he didn't need to be afraid. Because he had done his best, and had no regrets. Chapter 844. It was October 1st, National Day. The whole country welcomed a 10-day golden holiday, and the happiest was undoubtedly the domestic tourism industry. The big cake worth hundreds of billions was really tempting, and it was really worth fighting for. However, for people living in the city, there were few people who chose to travel during the National Day holiday. There were naturally many reasons. For example, they were too tired from work, so they should have a good rest during the holiday instead of going out. Moreover, during the National Day, the tourist attractions were full, and it would be crowded if they went out. There were also people who didn't want to spend money. Nowadays, life was so stressful, especially for people living in big cities. The daily expenses were already hard enough, and they were reluctant to spend money on this. But they couldn't just lie at home and sleep every day during the 10-day holiday, right? Calling a few friends to go out for a meal, listening to music in a bar, or watching a movie in the cinema had become the choice of many people during the holiday. The domestic film market, because of the National Day holiday, ushered in a small peak after the summer vacation. And there were many movies in the cinema, among which the most eye-catching was undoubtedly the domestic martial arts film, The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, and the Hollywood action blockbuster Ace Agent. The promotion of these two movies was vigorous. Although there was no tit-for-tat competition, the fierce competition was inevitable. For many people, they would watch both movies. Anyway, the movie tickets were not very expensive now, and they could totally afford it. Naturally, there was no difficulty in choosing. But for another group of people, they would seriously choose what they liked, and they might only watch one movie during the whole holiday. Of course, they would watch the best one, and they would be careful not to waste their money. Then, it was really a problem for them to watch The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, or Ace Agent. First, Ace Agent, a Hollywood action blockbuster with a big cast of big stars and a fierce and explosive trailer. It was a typical popcorn American movie, and it was undoubtedly a good choice for pastime. But in recent years, Hollywood action movies showed a trend of decline. Now, the mainstream was dominated by manga, fantasy, science fiction, and animation. In the past, Hollywood's popular action scenes swept the domestic market, but now, the domestic audience was tired of watching them, and it was very difficult to have much interest. Of course, for a Hollywood movie like this with such a huge investment, even if the theme and plot were old-fashioned, the special effects alone would be worth the ticket price. It would not be too much of a scam. Looking at The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, it was also a blockbuster. Although it was a domestic blockbuster, the cast was undoubtedly very strong. Lu Chen, Chen Feier, Lu Gangsheng, Tan Hong, together with a group of old actors and new generation actors, was naturally attractive. Judging from the trailer, posters and stills of The Smiling, The Proud Wanderer, it should be a sincere work, which was quite attractive. However, the problem was that the martial arts movies that were released during the summer had really hurt many audiences. They had originally come to support domestic movies and martial arts movies, hoping to see exciting new genres of movies, so they had bought tickets to enter the cinema. In the end, what the hell were those? Magical fantasy films with special effects, terrible plots, and celebrity shows that sold their faces. It was as deceptive as it could be. Watching such movies was a waste of hard-earned money. People could not care less about paying tens of yuan, but they could not feel that their intelligence and feelings were insulted when they paid. Therefore, the audience who had been fooled before had doubts about The Smiling, Proud Wanderer. As for the trailer and the stills, they wouldn't believe it easily. There were so many movies where the trailer was wonderful, but the actual movie was terrible. In comparison, they would rather watch Hollywood blockbusters, which had no plot and special effects. At least, it would not be too bad. Compared with these ordinary audiences who were wavering, Lu Chen's fans were undoubtedly much more determined. The fans of celebrities could be roughly divided into 5 types. First, there were brainless fans, which were often more extreme in their words, which were easy to be criticized by celebrities. Of course, there were also self-deprecating fans. Second, there were die-hard fans, which were the so-called iron rice. They were essentially very similar to brainless fans, but their willpower and actions were stronger than brainless fans, and their team spirit was very strong. The main force of a celebrity's fan support group was die-hard fans, which could be regarded as the backbone of the fan group. Then there were rational fans, which were actually the largest number of fans. Most fans of a real star were rational fans, who would not criticize their idol. They would support their idol's film and music works, but if their idol had any scandals, they would not unconditionally protect and support their idol like brainless fans and die-hard fans. There were also passerby fans, which could be regarded as the potential supplement of rational fans and die-hard fans. For many celebrities, how to attract a large number of passerby fans, and then turn them into rational fans and die-hard fans was undoubtedly a very important job. Finally, there were haters. To put it bluntly, they were haters, pretending to love a certain celebrity, and using the celebrity's name to humiliate other celebrities, to attract haters for this celebrity. Some of them were even high-end haters, which were the most troublesome. The number of Lu Chen's fans in Wave's blog had already exceeded 100 million, reaching an astonishing number of 120 million, which was the #1 fan list of Wave's blog. Of course, the number of fans in this blog was definitely fake, because many fans were sock puppets. Although he had never spent money to buy fans, according to the normal ratio, it was already very good if the number of really valuable fans could reach 20%. Even 20% was a very shocking number, which was basically divided into die-hard fans, rational fans, and passerby fans, which became the cornerstone of Lu Chen's support group. Lu Jiajun was the core representative of this group of fans. When The Smiling, Proud Wanderer began to large-scale promotional leaflets, the fan support group with Lu Jiajun as the main force carried out continuous support activities, calling on the vast number of fans to support Lu Chen, and to book the movie tickets of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer. Nearly 50 million pre-sales results, most of which were created by them. On October 1st, this kind of support activities reached its peak. The fan group launched a large-scale movie-watching activity through a variety of online channels such as blogs, forums, Tieba, QQ groups, etc., with the intention that The Smiling, Proud Wanderer could make a good start on the first day of screening, and even beat strong competitors. I have a ticket at 10 a.m., Hangzhou Shisha Cinema Hall 3, who wants to go with me? The more the merrier. The coordinates are Shanghai, my girlfriend and I have booked tickets for the evening, supporting Lu Chen is non-negotiable. Beijing Cheng and Cinema, see you at 7 p.m., Hall 1. I'm in Shancheng, the popularity that Lu Chen had accumulated over the years was playing a huge role. At the same time, many people in the industry were also staring at the movie market on the first day of the National Day holiday, paying attention to the collision between the smiling, proud wanderer and Ace Agent. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.